Good evening. Just trying to sort out, because I'm dropping frames a little bit here, just trying to sort out whether it's something I can fix, while I'm also just sort of waiting for people to show up. So what I'm looking at right now is the winners finals. So the winners finals is the same teams as the grand finals and the bracket reset. And the winners finals is like 3-2 as well. So like these two teams are really evenly matched, and it was really interesting because like one team has a carbon roller, the other team has like basically what I'd call the not necessarily the best team comp, but like the most well-rounded team comp that I've seen out of Japan lately. So I just wanted to look at some of that and how that sort of works together. But yeah, no, it looks like I'm dropping frames, so I'm gonna try and fix this. I didn't see this curling bomb when I first watched this, but it literally won them the game. This would have been an overtime win if not for that. I was wondering, like when I was watching this, I was like looking at this sort of overtime thing playing out. This is again winners finals, so it's not. I'm not going to be looking at this, but I was looking at this play out, and it was like, wait, they should win this. What's going on? But yeah, it was this curling bomb. You can see that N Perry's and parries are up here. Curling bomb goes there, and parry lands on the curling bomb. So, and that like sets up for everything else. Like you can see the stingray is a problem as well for yellow. Come on, there we go. Yeah, so like the stingray wouldn't have been a problem, but because they would have had the end parry. That isn't an end parry, right? Not a Kenza. Being able to like go up and do things. And yeah, like that trade wouldn't have mattered, and then everyone just started to line up on the stingray and died. So yeah, that curling bomb was pretty sick. 2-2 in the winners finals, and then it takes forever to get to this stage, and then it's an instant knockout because it's Rainmaker. And that's what happens when you screw up. What was this again? I remember looking at this and saying, yeah, this was... So it was... No, they had the same team comp. They just all died or some shit. Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. As soon as Rainmaker dying here is actually almost better than it continuing on. I say almost, not quite, but you look at the situation just before it happens. It's a 4v2, 4v1, and the Rainmaker's the only one who dies. Rainmaker dies, it's the Charger. They've still got all of their close range power in the enemy team's base. They can't really stop the Rainmaker from popping, so it's like a 3v2 with the Rainmaker about to pop in their base, which means they can't even come close to the Rainmaker to defend against it, which means that as soon as the Rainmaker pops, they just knock it out for free. So, yeah, like, even if, like, yeah, that's what I remember seeing. It's like, I saw this Rainmaker die, and I just looked at the squids at the top, and I was like, oh yeah, they win. Like, you'd have to be pretty fucking bad to screw this situation up. Especially when you got fucking Norishio over here with the carbon roller. Alright. Looks as though the frames have stabilized somewhat. I think part of the problem was that it was using my wired connection instead of my 4G connection, which might sound strange if you aren't aware of the internet situation in Australia. So let's get started. So this tournament took place a couple of days ago. So it's the SJOpen final, so it doesn't have all the like top teams in it. It has some good teams. These teams are definitely good enough to sort of be in SJ League. But for the most part, this was just basically a bunch of pickups. I think Cool and Cool played in it, but they got bodied in the top 6. So it's like good quality teams, and the qualifiers was like a whole bunch of like tournaments over the past month and a half or so. And so these two teams that we see here, there's Stokinderin and there is the Japanese team. I don't know like what that actually says. I know Ganba Wumi put up a translation of what the team name is, but it's like really long. Actually, let's... I'm just going to quickly bring that up so I can look at it. Twitter.com/GanbaWumi. It was Asano. Asanao. Full team name is Sekai ni Todoroke Asahi Noko. So Asano from the last two words. Fair enough. Asano. 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 We're going to call them Asano. Oh yeah, Cool and Cool looked very bad. I was watching, like, I was really looking forward to seeing Hancha body some fools, but Hancha's just washed it some. Like, I don't know if he's playing really badly because he's out of practice or whatever, but like he was playing as badly as I do with Tetras when I haven't played for like 3 months. So yeah, it was pretty horrible. Oh, they call themselves, okay. Asano. Asano. That's a nope. Right, yes. Okay, cool. Let's get started. So this was losers finals in through here. This was a quick 2-0 wash because Asano is basically straight up. But actually, I just want to quickly look at what caused this to be a 2-0 wash. Just because I want to set up, just before we go into the actual VOD review, I want to talk about... Oh, it's this team! It's the ballpoint team. That was really cool. Actually, that's a good good starting point. So, just let's start with a bit of context as to what Japan really likes doing right now. So, the sort of meta team comp in Japan is Double Brella, H3, and Charger. The reason for that is very simple. You have two Brellas who don't die. You have armor from the H3, which makes the Brellas die even less than not at all. And you have the Charger for the Stingray. The Charger also has a nice little sort of niche use in being able to snipe the H3 before they can get armor, and it's quite often like one of those ways of like, let's say like a fight takes place, I don't know, let's just use this screenshot here as an example. Like let's say you got a Charger like standing here or something, and there's a fight sort of like the Brellas have just come up through here, and there's a guy like up here somewhere, fighting off the Brellas, and the Brellas like put their shield up here, and the Charger can like shoot the Brella, which is one of the only ways it really dies, especially in like a with one of the other things with this team comp, the double Brella team comp, is that the main weakness of Brella is that it dies really quickly in a 2v1 situation, and when you... I'm gonna have to pick a different color for this, I think, because it's like blue on blue. It's not good. So yeah, when like the double Brella thing also is really good for turning that, like removing that 2v1 weakness. If you can keep the Brellas together, they don't have that 2v1 weakness anymore because they aren't in 2v1s. So you've got like it's a really well-made team comp that like it's basically focused on just not dying, having a front line that does not die, and once they're in, like, they stay in, and it's especially good for zones because it's like, it just slows the enemy team down so much because they have to, like, actually fight these things to get them off the zone. Less so in the other modes, but it's still effective in the other modes. Probably least effective on Rainmaker, but still generally pretty strong. It's weak on Rainmaker because it doesn't, like, stop the Rainmaker very well at all. The damage output is way too low, and, like, you can sort of creep the Rainmaker forwards if you're not careful. So yeah, that's sort of the meta of Japan. It's Double Brella, H3, Charger. So each of these three teams though is not running that. So one thing you got to understand about what the meta is it tells you what the tournament winners beat. It's not just a prescription for what you should be playing. If you want to win tournaments, you have to look at the meta and say, how do we beat this? And this is what all three of these top three teams have done. At least in their own way. Some less successfully than others. So, Gogo Erase over here is the purple team. They've got the ballpoint. I think Tiori, the Tenebrella, posted a thing on Twitter, like, saying why this team comp... why he picked this team comp. And it was... I don't remember exactly what the reasoning was, but it was basically the idea being that at some point... Actually, let's take a look at the team comp. Not the team comp. Get off that. The gear loadouts for this. I think these guys run quick respawn, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, quick respawn on these two. Yeah, so that's one of the ways of beating this sort of Brella and H3 meta, where what the Brella H3 comp wants you to do is like kill yourself on them. Like, they want you to run at them. and a lot of players are too undisciplined to actually recognize that and like let the brawlers screw up. And I think Tiori actually mentioned something along those lines in his post. I only got like the Google Translate version of that, so I'm not 100% sure what he was saying, but it seemed as though he was sort of along, operating on the same kind of information that I am. And that was really cool to watch because like it was like one of those, just sort of watching the Japanese teams like play this really slow-paced team comp, and then these other teams that like clearly destroying them by using super fast-paced team comps that they understand how to play. And in two of these teams, that style, actually these guys are running it too. So the main way that you speed up, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. The main way that that you deal with like a double Brella and H3 comp is by basically speeding the game up as much as you possibly can. And what I mean by that is like you make it so that you can go on them more often than they can go on you, and like have an effect, that is. So not like just feeding by walking up to the Brellas and dying, but actually getting kills on them and starting fights and all that sort of thing. And that's what a lot of these team comps are really good at, especially when you have something like a Tetra. If you look at a lot of the, like if you look at the double Brawler comp, there's no real way for them to initiate, there's no real way for them to, like, get in as such, because what happens is, like, the Brawlers need a bit of turf control in order to function properly, otherwise they get surrounded. The H3 is a garbage weapon, and the Charger... Like, the idea is that the Charger gets stingrays that then open up the map for the Brellas to push in a bit. And then once they're in, they don't get out. Like, they don't get pushed out. But what you see here is you see in both this... Wait, no, what am I talking about? No, this isn't Stakindrin, this is Asano. So what Asano does, and Stakindrin does a similar kind of thing to a degree, is they run quick respawn stealth jump. Now, obviously, that's... It's not just that simple. One thing that you can look at is the Tetras. So the Tetras are your main initiating weapon here. Because the Tetras are really good at like just sort of jumping into enemy ink, shooting shit, and then running away. And sort of keeping the attention as long as possible. And it sort of pulls the Brellas apart. So what I said before was, double Brella is really good because one of the reasons it's really good is because the two Brellas can stick together and they can remove their sort of 2v1 weakness. But if the Tetra is able to get in and start like drawing the Brellas away from each other, like one of them gets locked down by the end parries or something, one of them gets locked down by the Tetra, and one of them has they have to kill the Tetra because otherwise the Tetra's going to come back in and shoot them in the back if they all turn around and shoot the end parry or something. You've got two like really evasive weapons that punish the Brella's like lack of kill power. The Brella doesn't kill particularly well. It's good enough. It's not a bad slaying weapon, but it's also like it's not a blaster, right? Like a blaster just has this massive AoE, and it's a guaranteed 2-shot, right? And the Brella obviously should be a guaranteed 2-shot, but it's a little bit fiddly. Sometimes you don't get that, and also it's like a lot of the time you have to keep your Brella open. With a blaster, when you shoot, you're usually in the air. You're in the air, so you're moving forwards, and like you can keep mobile. Whereas with a Brella, you're usually standing still, like popping your shield up between shots, so there's a lot less mobile. And that's what the Tetra really, really is good at punishing. Dark Tetra especially. I'm not sure quite what I think the Cancer Dualies are just picked here because it's Clan Blitz and they want ballers or something like that. The other thing is that this Charger doesn't pick the vanilla Charger very much. I think he does pick it, but not very often. He uses all three Chargers, actually. And we'll get into that a little bit later. As for this team comp, I don't remember exactly how this was supposed to work, but I think it was a similar kind of idea, except using the Tentabrella instead of the Tetra. And one of the problems I have with Tentabrella is that I mentioned before, one of the things that Tetra does is it like goes in and then it like runs away, but you can't ignore it because it's going to go back in again, right? And you're sort of worried about it coming in and getting triple kill by sort of cleaving you from behind. Tentabrella doesn't do that. Tentabrella like shoots its shoots its umbrella and just sort of goes in, but it can't stop going in. Like, if it's with the Brella and starts getting shot at, the Brella is, like, it has to stand in the Brella. So you can just be like, oh, it's over there now. We're just going to ignore it. Like, just let it sit in the corner for a bit, and we can just run away, and it won't follow us because it can't. Like, a Tenebrella without its Brella is useless. And not only that, but even if we do get close to it, like, there's not necessarily any guarantee that it's going to start killing things. And my frames are dropping. Ay, ay, ay. Come on, internet. Get it together. You can do it. 4G, everyone. So I don't know how much we just missed, but basically what I was saying is Tenebrella and Tetra both do the same job. Tetra does it much, much better against Brellas, and also against, like, the Tetra does much better against the Tentabrella. And the reason for that is because the Tenebrella is sort of tied to its shield. It's a sort of very ham-fisted way of initiating. It's like, I'm going to go in, and I'm just going to hope that the other team is stupid enough to shoot at the Tenebrella. And if they're not, then that means I'm stuck in a corner just sitting under my Brella for about, the next 5 seconds. And then, if I want to get back out again, I have to shoot another Brella in the opposite direction, like go that way, or like super jump out or something like that. Which is just really, really slow. It doesn't do the same kind of... It doesn't have the same kind of pace that Tetra has. And as we'll see, pace is probably the main thing that separated the two teams in the finals. And the way that it happened was really, really interesting in a way that I hadn't really considered as such. Like, I knew it was a thing, but I hadn't actually seen it executed so well. So yeah, that's probably the reason why that these two teams it was a complete wipe for Asino. Like, they just 2-0'd, like, super quickly. And it's, I think, I don't know how Clan Blitz worked. It was... Oh wait, was this the game where... I feel like this is... Hang on, I want to see this game. Wait, never mind, no. There was one game on Kelpdome Rainmaker where it was just... It might have actually been in the finals at the qualifier or something. There was one game in Rainmaker Kelpdome where, like, the team that won got a opening wipe and pushed to 17, and then should have lost the game but didn't because they had that push to 17 or whatever, and the other team couldn't match it, even though they were spawn camping the whole time. Yeah, okay, cool. So, just to summarize that, context for this tournament is lots of H3, Brella, comps, whatever, but those comps are very slow, very special dependent, so the way you beat them is by speeding the game up to the point where they can't get their specials in time to stop you from pushing them out. And the way that you get around the sort of, the way that team comp, the double Brella team comp, stops that from happening is by having the double Brellas, which can't, like, die in 2v1s, they can't get surrounded by just people spamming dualies at them. But then the problem is that in the way that these teams beat that is they have something like a Tetra or a Tentabrella, like, try to pull the Brellas apart and keep them from, like, 2v2ing. And in doing that, they cause 2v1s, which then cause the Brella thing to fall apart, and then you got an H3 and a Charger left, which H3 can't kill shit, and the Charger is... Most Chargers are able to get, like, 1 or 2 kills, but if they get rushed down by 3 people, they're screwed. And usually by that point, like, they're getting shot by a T-Tech or something anyway. Not a T-Tech, a Charger or something anyway. Sup, Sleek? Okay, so let's look at the finals. This is it, I think. So, the way this tournament works is it's all modes, and I think there's a map pool. You can see here, like, the modes are predetermined. So, like, that's area, so splat zones. Yagura, so that's tower. Asari is clams. Hoko is Rainmaker, and then zones at the end again. So the way they do this, I think, is... I don't know how the first map is picked. I think it might be predetermined or random or something like that. And then the loser of the game counterpicks the next map. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but I'm not going to focus on it too much. Okay, this takes a little while. Okay. Firstly, team comps. So again, Firefin. This is Splat Zones. This guy's got a Firefin. It's not just a pure Stingray thing. So one of the things to understand about the way Japan uses Stingrays is people are starting to understand that Stingray isn't just something that you always use. On maps like Manta Maria, it can be good, but a lot of the time what happens is you've got people sort of up... excuse me? Am I pressing the wrong I'm pressing the wrong buttons. That's probably why. So you've got people sort of up on the bunker area. Excuse my mouse, I don't have a mouse pad, so it's, like, terrible. So you usually got people up in the bunker, like either bunker, doesn't really matter which, and you got people sort of on the lower ground here. When you've got that kind of thing happening, the Stingray can't just sort of sweep across. The Stingray has to move in 2 dimensions, and when you've got to move in 2 dimensions, it's a lot harder to actually hit things and sort of track them. So you might get a kill on like people who are down like on the bottom. But then, like, there's going to be some guy at the top who's able to just jump down and, like, clean up. Like, you aren't going to sweep across now and get 3 kills with a Stingray. So instead, especially against a team like this, so again, I was mentioning the pace sort of thing, this team comp is very much based on quick respawn, having the Tetra and the End Parry play off each other, and they do so extremely well. I was just watching these two play off each other, and it was amazing. Like, just the way that they trade off with each other was like a clinical execution of something I've been wanting to see for ages. Meanwhile, on this side, the Slosher... So, Mauricio is normally a carbon roller player, and I think the first map here was a bit unfortunate for him, because I'm not sure why he didn't play carbon here, actually. I would have thought this is an okay carbon map, but he's the carbon main, so I'll take his word for it. And the Slosher Deco, again, I think this is... I feel like the Slosher Deco was maybe a little bit too... how would I say it? A little bit too objective focused, but again, I think the Slosher Deco like didn't really work too well for them, and Mauricio was off his main weapon. And then and that's the other problem with this team comp. So when you've got an H3 and a Charger, you put a lot of pressure on these two weapons to perform. And if you don't have these two weapons like going off and getting a million kills, then the H3 is going to do nothing, and the Charger is basically left to get, like, eaten alive by 3v1 dualies just sort of running at them. You might realize I don't like the H3 very much. I think it's a stupid weapon and people should stop running it. We'll worry about that later, though. So, yeah, so a lot of the time in Japan, people are sort of dropping the Stingray, or at least focusing less on the Stingray, in favor of getting kills the old-fashioned way. And part of the reason for that is the quick respawn thing, which, if you recall in Splat 1, that was the same thing that quick respawn also brought an end to, like, Kraken invincibility meta, whatever the fuck. And in response to that, you might also recall that there was stuff like vanilla Slosher using, like, burst combos to, like, guarantee killing quick respawn users, so like you would just instantly kill them and they wouldn't be able to like trade with you, and you would be able to like, and you would also run quick respawn yourself, so it's like you have this ability to instantly kill everything that is sort of stealth jumping in, and then you also like have stealth jump yourself, so it's like, and that's sort of what Tetras do to a degree. But anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. So let's continue this on, if I can get my hotkeys right. Hello, cat. So yeah, like, all in all, like, this team comp just isn't great from SK. It's like they're off their main sort of weapons. Okay. So what I want you guys to focus on, I'll just back this up for a second so I can point it out. So look at the positioning here and here. This is like a really, really important formation for these two. This sort of 90-degree angle. Actually, it's less than 90 degrees. But you got the Tetras on one side, and you got the End Parries on the other side. They play off each other extremely well. Just like, while I'm not going to point it out every time, I just want you guys to like be on the lookout for these two players in these two positions. In positions like this, I should say. Gotta fucking work. There we go. See, okay, the criticism that I don't play this game would be valid if we weren't talking about things that I've known for 3 years. Like, we're talking... This is all shit that I've known since, like, 2016. Like, early 2016. Okay, I was distracted trash-talking people. So yeah, Tetra initiates. Nourishio can't keep up. Like, he's not a dealy player. Like, I'm sure he can play them well, but he's not gonna hold a candle to this Tetra. I can't remember what his name is. So what you'll quite often see is, you look at the top here, the purple team's going to be down quite a lot in players, and they're just going to not lose the zone. And this is going to be... I think they keep it here, in fact. Maybe not. Okay, they don't keep it, but, like, I think Asano just gets straight back in. Yeah. I remember this game being, like, pretty... I don't know if it was one-sided, but it was, like, it was not pretty. We'll take another look at what exactly happened there in a second. I just want to let this play out for a little bit. And, okay, yeah, the Tetra likes doing that. Don't worry about it. Let's not focus on the fact that this guy likes rolling into bombs. Hey, look, it's a suction bomb. Let's die to it. Let's not tease him for enjoying suicide on suction bombs. And here's the classic H3 thing where he leaves his teammate to die because his H3 can't hit shit. H3 is a terrible fucking weapon, stop using it. Okay, so... I think this is a good enough point to back up and have a look. Probably should have done this sooner. So, one thing you noticed is, you might have noticed in the first two fights here, the first fight went SK's way, and then the second fight, like, they didn't get the zone, and it ended up, like, they still got 100 points on the ticker. And then here, they get the zone back in basically a, like, it's... What is this? It's a 3v1 at this point. The sloshes down, the H3's on the zone. Where is the end parry? End parry is on the way in, Charger is stingraying. Okay, so they got two people on the zones. And one, like, both the zones are half painted, and they got an H3. They should be able to paint this, like, straight away. So why does this not happen? So Nourishio, like, paints the zone, and then, meanwhile, you got Sho over here isolating the H3. One of the things that you got to understand about H3 is that it gives people the confidence to just walk up and shoot it at any time. If, like, most weapons you have to respect in at least some capacity, whereas the H3, you walk up to it and you shoot it, because it's an H3 and it is going to miss. Like, you can almost guarantee that it's going to miss. And if it happens to be, like, out of burrow that you're playing against, which it probably isn't, yeah, you might get shot. But even then, like, I've watched Adabaru play H3, like, enough times now to know that even he screws up all the time with that weapon. It's simply not a reliable weapon in a 1v1, and that's one of the main downfalls that it has. It allows Sho to get in really quickly and really easily, which then means that you've got this kind of... Okay, Sho's over here, and he needs to be dealt with. You can see the charger laser over here. I think I got my cursor enabled. Yeah, I do. You got charger laser over here. He's focusing on Sho. Meanwhile, Tetras have just jumped in to fight Nourishio. So what was a 1v3 is actually a series of 1v1s. So this numbers advantage means nothing, and it's all because this H3 can't... It's partly because this H3 can't take a fight, and it's also partly because Nourishio is not responding to the H3 dying. And he can't do it because the H3 dies too quickly. Like, it's not on Nourishio as such. It's... Nourishio can't come in from here to help his H3 because the H3 just instantly dies. There is no, like, buffer time where, hey, I'm getting shot, come help me. And as such, Nourishio, like, he actually wins his fight over here, but he just gets, like, destroyed by Sho because Sho, like, he doesn't get the kill quickly enough on the Tetra, so Sho can come in and clean up and prevent, and they've basically reset. Like, yeah, it's still, they actually have reset. It's, wait, did I look at this wrong? Oh, fucking hell, the sides up here switched because of the observer. I was wondering why. I was like, hang on, these numbers are bigger than these numbers, but they were bigger than before. Anyway, so yeah, it's a complete reset. Like, it's 3v2 now. The Brella is done. The Slosher and Charger are isolated, or on this side they can just get the zone back. Super, super easy. And it's also easy to get the zone back because they're all pushing from the same side. They just paint, like, they just move across the map and they paint as they go. There's no need to, like, have anyone look backwards at things that don't matter. So remember how I said before... Oh, the Tetras was down here. So remember how I said before that the Tetra and Perry sort of duo is really important here? When the Tetra is not able to, like, start fights for the end parry just sort of is food. And it's especially, like, true of Tenatex, but it's end parry as well. The main difference with end parry is that it can, like, stay alive for a couple of seconds, right? When a T-Tech gets gone on, T-Tech is instantly dead, much like an H3. Like, the T-Tech might trade, unlike an H3, but it's also instantly dead. End parry can at least, like, roll backwards or something like that. In this case, by all means, he just sort of rolled into a Stingray after his Tetra fed to a Suction Bomb, but the point is that he's getting shot at, and there's no sort of risk of the H3 or whatever being traded, but by the Tetras. But of course, the Tetras died to a Suction Bomb, but also, like, had just jumped in, so he gets his stealth jump, quick respawn, and he's instantly back in the fight. And then, yeah, this is the part where I was, again, shit-talking the H3. Okay, so we're back to where we were before. But yeah, I just wanted to make that part clear, because it's, like, a really important part of this matchup between these two teams. Oh yeah, why do people want to use the X-ray so much? It's because it makes a funny sound when you get a triple shot on someone. Like, it makes people's endorphins go crazy. And, like, it tricks their brain into thinking they're doing something cool. Whereas what's actually happening is people are judging the H3 by its peaks rather than its average. Its average is, like, bottom of the fucking barrel. That's not to say it's a bad weapon. It is a bad weapon, but it can be, like, it's a weapon that can be used... most weapons in this game can still be used if you understand why they're shit. And if you don't understand why they're shit and run, like, H3 and then a bunch of other shit that doesn't kill things, then you're going to have a bad time because you don't understand why the H3 is a bad weapon. If you understand why the H3 is a bad weapon and instead play it as a suction and armor bot that can occasionally help with the kill, then you're fine. But you have to build your team comp around it. And, like, one of the other things is people have this sort of obsession with, like, how easy or hard a weapon is. Like, people will excuse all the X3's bad results by saying, oh, but it's a hard weapon. If it's a fucking hard weapon, don't use it. Like, Tenatech is an easy weapon, and because it's easy, it's good. Right? Like, okay, I say it's good after having shit-talked it for ages. Tenatech is not a great weapon, but it's reliable. You can put a Tenatech in your team and be very, very certain that as long as the guy isn't stupid, he's going to get, like, 7 or 8 kills. Like, you're going to be able to set up for him. He's, like, if you set the situation up so the Tenatech can get a 3-kill streak, it will get the 3-kill streak. There is no question about it. Right? It will walk up and shoot things, and it will be quite happy to do so. And Parry's the same way. Tetra is not the same way. Tetra can't necessarily do that because it's unreliable as hell. It's a really, like, dicey weapon, but the Tetra is there to set up for the end parry, and we'll get into that a little bit. Yeah, so, like, you can see the communication of these guys is really sick. Like, one of the advantages of this team comp is that you've always got situations like this where, like, one guy dies, but then his teammate jumps in, and there's usually another teammate here as well. And if there's a trade and someone jumps to the person who traded, then it's a 1 trade, like, you sort of cheat the win. If it's a 1-for-1 trade and it becomes, like, 0 versus 0 at the end, this became 0 versus 1 and eventually 0 versus 2. But if it's 0 versus 0 at the end of a trade, and someone jumps to, like, one team has someone jump to that trade, then they win the trade. Like, they sort of steal the win. Yeah, Hitzel, I've been using Ninja Squid on Tetris myself, and it's quite good. And again, like, this guy, like, over on the side here just has to get the fuck out. See, this is what the Tetra's good at. So, this fight took about, what, 5 seconds? 36... 5, 4, 3. Yeah, 5 seconds. This thing can't kill things very quickly, but it doesn't need to. The whole point of it is to get this guy over here into the right position. The whole point of that fight is to get Sho into a position to start killing things. And then the H3 is just sort of over here pretending to be useful. Like, he dies here, but he gets the, like, that's exactly what a Tetra should be doing, right there. Basically, tactically feeding. Okay, so I've been mostly looking at this game from the perspective of Asano, and the main reason for that is because I want to introduce, like, what, I guess, the problem is for Stakinderen. So, just to spoil the result here, Stakinderen loses the opening set of the Grand Finals 3-1, and then they come back in the losers bracket 3-0. So, it's sort of 4-3 overall, and then if you include the winners finals, it's like 7-5 or something like that. So, Stakinderen wins overall. And the way they do that is partly with an adaptation, it's partly also because they don't have their usual team comp. So again, Tenetek can't do what Sho's doing right now. He gets... How the hell did that happen? Okay. So, just with this, what's happening here is Sho is like basically running away and then dying. But, like, you can see what the idea is here. Actually, I'm not even sure. Oh, he got shot by Narishi. Okay. You can see what the idea is here, though. If Sho gets away, and the Tetras get in, like, there's 3 people here. They're all looking at the Tetras. The Charger and the Brawler, meanwhile, are off somewhere else, like, getting their specials ready. So it's like it's a way to sort of drag out lost fights so that you have time to reset, because you've got quick respawn anyway. The Tetras haven't got a kill, so they're just going to jump back in and instantly die and then respawn, because that's what happens with quick respawn and stealth jump. And you can see the Charger had his suction bomb ready to go, and a suction rush ready to go, rather. And now you have this unfortunate situation where you have an H3 and a Charger left to defend, and they can't do anything because they're an H3 and a Charger. The Charger, like the H3, sorry, the Charger stingraying, and then again, Tetra and Perry working off each other so damn well. I say so damn well. It's also really easy when you have quick respawn stealth jump, but that's again the point. Like, easy is good. Tactically feeding is something that only Tetras can do, and if they're tactically feeding, they're still technically not doing it right. In order to tactically feed with a Tetra, you really need to know what Tetra is about. And I don't think solo queue players have that excuse. Okay, so this game's more or less over. Oh hey, the H3 got a kill! It's amazing! Everything I said is wrong because the H3 got a kill. No, of course not. H3 got 1 kill out of about 5 situations. That is bad. Like, the H3 can occasionally get a kill by accident. It's not enough to justify using the weapon. If you're going to use the armor, you need to understand why you're using the H3, and why you're not using something like a fucking Junior or something with double bombs. This engagement here is just... this is an important fight sort of on a tactical level, because it's a good example of what I'm about to talk about at the end of the game. Oh hey, the Tetra lost to a tap-shotting Charger. Again, I'm completely wrong. I'll try not to be so sarcastic and... yeah. Okay, so let's look at this scoreline here. So 26 to 19, so that's 7 points, which is like 5 seconds, 4 or 5 seconds. The reason that Stakinderen lost this game is partly because at the very end, the H3 and the Charger both got kills they shouldn't have, but more to the point... Okay, let's look at the timing here. Okay, so Stakinderen's got their penalty done. And at this point, the zone is neutral at 19 seconds. And then Sho pulls away, pulls away, pulls away. Zone's not painted, zone's not painted, zone's not painted, zone's not painted, zone's not painted. There we go. So that was 12 seconds that Sho just bought. By himself, pretty much. Like you see, there's 3 people shooting at him. The charge is over here too. Actually, wait, was Norishio over here too? My quality's a bit shit because of my 4G, but... Yeah, Norishio... Oh no, the H3's going back in, and the H3 paints the zone. Where's Norishio? Oh, he's in. Okay. Okay. That thing, that Sho did here to buy like 12 seconds, won them the game and sort of counteracted the accidental kills that the H3 and the Charger got. But he'd done that. He and, what's this guy's name? Is it just Ace? Tetra. So what this guy in the what Sho and the Tetra did basically all through this game, there are a whole bunch of situations where this happened. Basically, keeping a lost fight going to the point where Sekindran has no choice but to follow them around and kill them, because if they don't, they're a Tetra and a Dually. Like the Tetra and an Imperi are like the 2 most mobile weapons in the game. If you leave a Tetra and an Imperi like in your behind your team, they're going to just run at you at some point, and they're going to do it faster than you can possibly react, which is especially bad for a Brella comp. But in this case, they don't have Brellas, so it's okay. Marshu, okay, thanks. But like you can imagine, if they're coming from the back, what's at the back? You got the Charger and the H3 and kind of the Slosher. The Norishio's going in, and yeah, he's finding... But the difference is, when he goes into the back of the team, he finds a Brella. And remember, the thing about Brellas is they win 1v1s, especially when they're 1v1s on their side of the map. Whereas these guys go into the back of this team and find an H3 and a Charger. Like, what are these going to do to this? Even a Slosher. What is a Slosher going to do to stop these two from just running at them? So they have to go and gang up on this guy when they're behind him. They have no choice. Even if, like, I don't even know if they were exactly thinking that, but that's what I'm seeing, right? Is they have to go and do that. Which means that they are forced to take this really bad situation where they've just won a fight against a team that resets in about 5 seconds. And then they have to go and chase an N-Parry for about 12 seconds, which, like, half the time that N-Parry is going to have a Tetra joining him if they screw up even a little bit. So it's like, what can this team do? Like, basically, the only reason the score was close is because the H3 got a kill that it shouldn't have. Like, I think the Tetra just sort of got a little bit too brain dead. You got to be a little bit brain dead to play Tetra. Like, you gotta actively avoid thinking about what might happen and just go. And that's not pejorative. That is literally how you have to play Tetra, because if you play too slowly with Tetra, it defeats the whole purpose of the weapon. So yeah, that is the first game. That took about... Okay, we're an hour into the stream. To be fair, a lot of the opening was like me waiting for... Yeah, and look, completely outfragged, but it doesn't matter. Like, this guy fought an N-Parry, and that was it the entire game. These guys fed the whole game, and dragged out scoring runs when they were in control, and when they weren't in control, they minimized the amount that these guys could do. And yes, this guy got 16, assist points. They got 16 murder points. A lot of that was armor assists. Now, I will quite happily say that assists, like, this is a completely, like, a reasonably accurate representation of contribution to the game. Like, you can meme about armor assists all you want. Armor assists are legit. If an armor gives an assist, that means the assist, like, the armor was useful. Like, it helped. Or if it didn't directly help, like if it was a case where the armor just didn't get popped even at all, then it still would have helped if the fight had gone slightly differently. So, like, statistically speaking, it helped. So yes, the H3 probably did contribute the most to this game. However, they fucking lost. it doesn't matter if your numbers are better than their numbers if you lost. So keep that in mind. This is... But yeah, so I wanted to talk about this game from these guys' perspective, from SNO's perspective, specifically because this is their normal team comp, and this is not SK's normal team comp, so I can't really, like, these guys are obviously on the back foot. But the way that these guys want to play is they want to have these two starting fights all over the map, specifically the Tetra starting fights all over the map. The end parry follows up and gets kills. The Brella is sort of here as a kind of a +1 if, like... So you're going to have these two as your primary fighters, and then this guy is going to be sort of your third guy in. And if not, this guy is the perfect weapon to defend the charger, because what happens is, like, an end parry goes after your charger, like, manages to trickle through past these guys, and this guy just sort of sits there and puts his shield up, and then charger shoots him or something. Like, this guy is doing the sort of the 1v1 thing with the Brella. He's using it in a very different way from a lot of those double Brella team comps that you see. Okay, so let's go to Game 2. This is Game 2 on... I think this is the map that Stikinderen won in this set. I'm assuming it is because it's Academy, and Norishio seems to have Academy down to a science. Yeah. So Tower Control and Academy. And this was played in the winners finals too. This was one where the Curling Bomb won the game. Okay, so this is the standard team comp. This is what they tend to run. Yeah. Carbon Roller, Vanilla Carbon Roller, normally Carbon Deco, but this was vanilla Carbon. Not sure. I don't actually know why this guy's running Vanilla Carbon, but he's doing it. Whatever. Yeah, so end parry, H3, charger, standard chip. Now, this team comp's a little bit different from before because instead of a slosher that kind of kills a little bit slowly and is a little bit fiddly against the sort of really quick weapons over here, you've got a carbon roller which can actually dunk things. So there's a... I like to differentiate rollers and like tri-slosher from blasters in that they're spread damage as opposed to AoE. And spread damage is something, and the reason that's important is because spread damage actually beats end parries and like dualies and shit. Less so with the carbon because you're mostly predicated on vertical flicks, but the general idea is when you have like an arc shot, like a cone of damage, you deal a lot more, a lot better with end parries and whatnot, because like you're sort of able to hit them regardless of where they go. You can sort of, you have a bit of an error margin. Whereas with blasters, like they can come close to you against a like end parry versus blaster. End parry can like roll toward the blaster, and make the blaster miss that way. So whereas with a roller, they can only really roll away, and if they're rolling away from a roller, it's fine. The roller doesn't really care. Okay, so now that these guys have their standard team comp, at least mostly standard, this guy Norishio normally runs Carbon Deco. You can sort of see, like, he gets bodied in that fight there, by all means. I think early on in this game, it was very much in Asano's favor, and then, like, Norishio got his shit together. Ace3 losing a fight again, nothing to worry about there. Okay, Sho has a bad habit of doing that, but, he died to a bomb again, dude. It keeps happening. In fairness, he didn't have much of a choice, but, like... Yeah, okay, so... Sho has a bad habit of... I've noticed in this, both this and the winners finals and later on, Sho has a bad habit of using Inkjet too late, and it sort of gets him in a bit of trouble a couple of times here. It sort of stuffs their ability to push. Is this the one where Sho... Actually, I think this is where Sho learned his lesson from Winners Finals, yeah. Okay, so this Inkjet, Sho used Inkjet in the Winners Finals from like this spot here, like on top of the ledge, and died. Whereas this time around he actually used it from the low ground like he should have in the first place. And because of that, the Tetra... I think the Tetra had actually got a kill, so he doesn't have quick respawn at this stage. But the Tetra's able to get in because the jump mark is actually safe, and he can just, like, this guy can dodge the H3 and all that sort of shit. So yeah, the Tetra's back in at this stage, and now Tetra is up on one side, and Perry's on the other side, and yeah. Like, that right there, like, it's two really, really well taken fights, and I think at this stage I was saying, wow, these guys won. And then I think they fucked it up. Oh yeah, they fucked it up because Sho went in too deep. Sho does that, I think. I think that's sort of his thing, is he's used to aiming a Tetra sort of go in suicidally, so that he can go in suicidally. And when he doesn't have the Tetra going in suicidally, he doesn't quite... like, he just sort of feeds. I don't really... I honestly don't know why he would run Carbon... Vanilla Deco over Carbon here. Like, auto bombs on the tower just seems so narrow of a use case. Like, you don't pick a weapon because you can put bombs on the tower. Because, like, you gotta realize, when you're watching Japanese tower control, you gotta realize that most of the fights are taking place off the tower, where it doesn't matter if there's an auto bomb on the tower, you know? I kind of wonder if they just figured that having rain would be a good way of dealing with some of this, and, like, I don't know. I think it worked out in the end, but anyway, what was I looking at here? Oh, yeah. I just wanted to quickly, again, draw attention to the 90-degree angle thing. So right here, these guys are surrounding an H3, who cares? But after that, Melon comes in and shoots the Tetra, but Sho is immediately in position to shoot this guy. Like, he's facing this direction, Sho can immediately start firing, and it's very difficult for him to screw that up. And you can see, like, the fight does drag out a little bit, but Sho's already got like two or three shots on him, so it's like super free. And yeah, I think at this stage, Sho gets a little bit ahead of himself. The Tetras are jumping to the tower, and Sho's like, I'm gonna go to the goal, and then he dies. Again to an H3, which, fair enough, like, I completely understand him running after the H3, but it was a little bit suicidal. Like, I would have preferred to see him go up on the high ground. So yeah, that's that push. So push to 20 is pretty solid, especially against a team that is reliant on basically like specials to get in, because it means like when you've got a special reliant team on tower control, it's really easy for you to get too reliant. No, not too reliant. It's really easy for you to sort of like lose steam on a push. Whereas the advantage that this team has, the purple team has, with their team comp, is that they don't run out of steam. Their resource for pushing is the Tetra's deaths, basically. Is the Tetra able to go in and feed so that the Emperor can get a triple kill? If so, go for it. Whereas this, the yellow team's Sekindarin needs like at least one special to be able to push. Oh yeah, I think that double bomb. That was... This was something down here. Oops. Ah, okay. This is a sign of things to come. 4v1. Carbon Roll is the last guy left. They know where he is, because the Emperor goes straight for him. Or maybe they don't. Maybe they were just painting it thinking there might be a carbon roller there. But point is, this guy goes after the carbon roller in a 4v1. Remember what I was saying before about how the Tetra and the Emperi, when they're behind an H3 charger, the team has to go after them, because if they don't, they're going to get run out and they're going to lose their anchor. Norishio does the same thing back to these guys, and he does it extremely well later on in the series. Like, extremely well. And it's basically what wins them the entire tournament. And again, like I was saying before, these guys can basically push completely dry. They do not need specials to push. These guys completely outpace any kind of defense that's based on a Stingray. When people were in the midst of complaining about charges and whatnot, like the number one counter to playing against charges is to play really, really quickly and prevent them from using Stingrays to keep you out of their base and whatnot. And of course, the problem with that is in order to play really quickly, you need to be good. And frankly, a lot of these guys who are complaining about charges are just not good enough to actually execute this strategy. So it's like, it makes sense as to why charges are... And I'm saying that not to disparage them. It's like a meta thing. If you are playing in a meta where nobody is quick enough, and nobody used Tetras to begin with, but nobody's quick enough to actually stop you from using Stingrays for every single defense, then use Stingrays for every single defense. You won't lose. Like, again, you should understand why you're winning and the fact that there is a way to beat it, but at the same time, if people are going in super hard... if people are going in super slowly, I should say, because they're relying on, I don't know, a Tenebrella to initiate for them, then yeah, by all means, use your Stingrays. Abuse them. Wait, was this a knockout? I thought they won this. I thought Stakendra won this. If they didn't, it is because of the Carbon Roller. But I could have sworn they won this. Oh yeah. That right there is why Dark Tetra is straight up better than Light Tetra. Light Tetra is okay. Like, it's serviceable, it does most of the things that Dark Tetra does, just Dark Tetra has the splashdown. And it's like, that's always been a thing for it. This isn't as a result of the buff to splashdown. And again, that attempted push into mid was sort of, again, exactly what I'm talking about. This Tetra can literally 1v3. Like, nothing on Sekindarin really threatens the Tetra until he starts picking Carbon Deco. Carbon Deco can threaten the Tetra because it has the burst bombs. Carbon Vanilla can't. It just sort of vertical flicks and dies. Yeah, okay. I could have sworn that Sekindarin won this game, but it must be the next game. Yeah, the auto bomb rush for Tetra, for Light Tetra specifically, is okay because it sort of refreshes your rolls. Oh, yeah, okay, this is like exactly the kind of kill spread that you want. Where the anchor doesn't have to do anything, your defense doesn't have to do anything, you just have an initiator setting up for your Slayer to get like constant triple kills. And whereas you look at this team count, they've got 8 kills on their Slayer. What was I looking at here? Okay, yeah, so what I was saying about the Tetras. Basically, the Tetras are single-handedly winning them this game, or this series at this point, and it's because there's no real answer for them. In order to deal with Tetras, you need something that does, like, something quick like Burst Bombs, or something that can match its pace, or at least slow it down. It's one of those 3 things, usually 2 or more. So something that slows it down, something that matches its pace, or something that can kill it quickly with like burst bombs. And this team and this team comp and the previous team comp, neither of those teams had that. You had an N parry. Like, you got to understand about N parry. N parry doesn't have winning matchups much like Tentatic. It doesn't really have winning matchups. What it has is the ability to like really quickly go in and shoot things in the back. When it fights like a Tetra, the end parry should lose that every time, because the Tetra has 4 rolls, which is a ridiculously broken mechanic. If the end parry comes up against a blaster, a good blaster, that is, like a blaster that has fought enough end parries to know how to deal with end parries, then it's probably not going to do too great against that. It's going to trade. The last thing the Slayer wants to be doing is trading. The Initiator, the Tetra, doesn't mind trading. The whole point of the Tetra is to trade. Whereas the end parry is like, come at me. Anyway, game 3. Oh, I think I remember this one. This is like the saddest game of all time. I think this is the one. Gachi Asori. Okay, they got the Carbon Deco. Alright. This right here, I think, is a mistake. It's not a big mistake, but I think... Because remember what I was talking about before, about how, like, when something, like, sort of trickles through these two guys, you want something that's going to just instantly and reliably... Not instantly, but reliably win a 1v1 against whatever trickles through to protect the charger. This doesn't do that. Tenebrella does not do that. Tenebrella does not reliably win 1v1s. It just sort of sits there. And occasionally, like, if you play... Like, Kayatasu can win a 1v1 with a Tenebrella. This guy's not Kayatasu. I don't know who this guy is, but he's not Kayatasu. So, yeah, it's like it's a fundamental change to the team comp. It might seem like a simple shift from like, oh, it's a Brella to another Brella. No, this is a completely different weapon. It plays completely differently. It has completely different properties. It's just not even remotely close to being the same weapon. Okay. Exhibit fucking A right here. This guy does not win this fight if he doesn't have burst bombs. Like, just straight up. Burst bombs fuck dualies. How do deaths factor into the final result? Depends on who's dying and depends on how they die. Tetra, deaths are almost a positive for a Tetra. Tetra looks at deaths the same way that Chargers look at Stingrays. If a Tetra dies like 14 times, that means they've initiated 14 times, and if the Slayer is followed up with a 20 bomb or something like that, then 14 deaths is exactly what the Tetra wants. If you're looking at like I don't know, a Charger, then yeah, you don't want any deaths. You want as few deaths as possible. With a Slayer, few deaths as possible. With a kind of defensive utility kind of weapon, depends. But generally speaking, whoever's initiating is the one who should be having the most deaths. And if you've got something other than that happening, it means that someone is feeding non-tactically. The only person who has tactical... Oh, Object Shredder on the Brella is because of bubbles. Like, straight up. Also Baller. Tenebrella with Object Shredder destroys Baller. These guys have a Baller, and I don't think they're really needed to get in. What you'll find is with a lot of these games, especially on Maker Mart, where Maker Mart's a bit of a shit show anyway for Clan Blitz, what you'll find, though, is the Japanese teams quite often don't use Baller to initiate on the basket. Like, they don't have a Baller just run toward the basket and sort of sit here and everyone jumps to them and then they all die. What you see is something more like this, where you have... Actually, never mind. My build-up is all for nothing. You'll see it in a minute, when SK pushes in. Also, again, so remember what I was saying about the Tetra, how like it can sort of sit there 1v3 and not die? Because it just sort of keeps rolling. Look at what Norishio is doing right now on the right-hand side of the screen. He's fighting a 3v1 himself. Right? He loses this fight. But remember how in the first game, it was largely determined by the fact that Asano, I keep forgetting the name, Asano was able to draw out sort of lost engagements. So this is a 2v3 overall, but this is a 1v3 right here. But he just stays alive. Like, he's sort of sitting here being a carbon roll. You can get to kill on, what was it, the Tetra. Again, not a huge deal, but the Tetra's not initiating in that case. The Tetra's defending. That's when the Tetra does not want to die. Because what needs to happen with the Tetra is the Tetra needs to get this kill and then go straight in. right? That's what the Tetra's built on, is the ability to just really quickly push after getting some kind of advantage. And it can't do that because it just died to the Carbon Roller. So this Carbon Roller getting a trade here is a really good idea. Even though the trade is like in Asano's favor, it completely stops their momentum and their ability to push. It also helps that they didn't have a power clam. So they would have been able to get a whole lot done anyway. But like you see, there's a ton of clams here. They could have got a power clam really quickly. Okay. This whole sequence is just fantastic. Alright. Let's start from right here. So, Norishio has baited out the Tetra into, I think, is this his fourth roll? No, it's only his third. He could roll a fourth time rather. So, he's rolled 3 times and he's ended up here. Norishio, though, I think he's close enough to get the insta-kill anyway. I think this is close enough that he can get the insta-kill. But he is basically able to just, like, instantly dunk this guy with a Burst Bomb combo before he can react. So what the Tetra normally does is, like, the reason he rolls 3 times here is so that he can sort of fake having only 1 roll left. Whereas what happens a lot of the time is, like, he'll roll 3 times, and this guy will be like, oh, he's rolled 3 times, I'm going to go in and shoot him. And then he rolls 4 times away because his rolls are pre-charged. Whereas this Burst Bomb combo just completely negates that. At the same time, this guy is about to go way down here. And that's the only, like, as soon as he launches this Brella, it's the only direction he can go. Meanwhile, up on the top side here, Sho is up by himself up here. And I don't know, I think the... I've got to let this play out. So, yeah. I know the Slosher comes up here at some point, and he, like, uses his baller to finish off Sho, and then it's, like, the Charger's kind of left... the Charger's up here, and he, like, goes up through here or something to try and help Sho, and it just sort of doesn't work. So this is, like, a classic example of why, like, one of the weaknesses of Tentabrella, how to deal with Tetras, and I guess why end parries shouldn't be fucking feeding and initiating fights without their buddy, all in one sort of play. So there's a lot to keep up with, but let's take a look at it. So, yeah, Tetra dies right here. Tenebrella is launching. So the Tenebrella can only be in this part of the map for the next, like, 5 seconds. So he is a non-factor for this fight up here. He cannot help this guy. So what does Norishio do? He's already over here. He doesn't give a shit. There's a Tenebrella. He doesn't have any clams. He can't do anything. I'm just going to go over here and kill the Charger. And yeah, the Tenebrella, like, backs off at this point, because he's got a clear avenue to do so. But he, like, he's sort of forced to run away to help his Charger, but he's a Tentabrella. What can he do? He can't hit a fucking Carbon Roller. And then he just dies to a Slosher. And again, the Tetra gets in, rolls 4 times, gets away, but the Carbon Roller is just like, screw you, I have Burst Bombs. Now again, they had to clean this guy up here because they don't have enough, like, manpower to just 1v1. But it doesn't matter, because they've already removed the difference between this engagement here and the engagements before is, if you look at who's left, you've got a Tenebrella, who is, like, the most, like, obvious weapon on the entire map. Like, you just... like, wherever the Tenebrella goes, you know where it is. And then you got the Enperi, who just died. So, in this case... they've actually got... they don't have anyone at their back. They can move so much faster. They can just scream across the map. Like, Sho tries to come in here, and, like, they've already got the setup. They already know where he can come from. Like, there's no, oh, he could be coming from behind us. They've got eyes forward. Everyone's looking forward. And Sho just instantly fucking dies in a 3v1 that he shouldn't have taken in the first place. And, like, I don't know where the Tetra is in all this. Oh, he's sitting there waiting to get kills. But he's already in. Like, he's blown his initiation on a fucking carbon roller that it was already dead. And now he just, like, he gets stung, and they're in. So this right here is not a push, apparently, because they've got an H3 and a Charger left, so their push just instantly ends the moment they lose their Slayers. That's, like, sort of the weakness here. I was building this up because I thought this was the thing that I was trying to make a point out of. But I think it's the next push, actually. Alright, see ya, Hazel. Okay, so... is this it? Yes, okay. The way that you see a lot of these really good teams from Japan initiating on Clan Blitz is stuff like this, where you got like a 2-down situation, and they go in, just like normally, they just sort of waltz in, and there's a baller on top of that. So it's like, this guy has his baller on top of the fact that these guys have like 3 people just sort of surrounding the basket. Which means like the baller is a bit of a coup de grace. Whereas, like, so it can't really get shot, right? Like, it can't just get popped and be useless, and people aren't jumping to it, so they aren't suiciding their entire team. Instead, it just sort of cleans up. Like, it cleans up this area. It means that, like, for the next couple of seconds after this, because they've had to respect the baller too much, there's a couple of seconds where these guys can just pile clams in and score. And, you know, this is a really good wraparound. Like, this is a really good counter push from Asano. However, it is stopped short by the saddest sequence of events I think I've ever seen in Japanese Splatoon. It hurts to watch. Like, it actually hurts. Because that was 3 power clans, they'd be at 40 points. Like, they would have tied up. And not only would they have tied up, but the timing that they hit to get those clams not in. And then they fed to get their clams back. Like, it was just... oh my goodness. They would have got the lead back. They could have even knocked out. I think they could have knocked out. I think they had the setup to knock out. I need to look at it again. Like, okay, let's look at this from the perspective of that fucking hell. Just those 2 clams sitting there is just sad. Okay, so what's their setup? They're about to go in. People are respawning, but it's Meikomatsu because respawning isn't very long. Okay. At this point, fucking hell, they're not on overhead, so I can't see where everyone is. Sho is kind of out of position here, but you can sort of see, like, he's trying to... wait, did he miss his jump? Please don't tell me that that also happened. What was he doing? No, he didn't miss his jump, he just fell down. Because he was getting shot by... okay. Alright. He jumped down because he was getting sloshed, I think. Oh my goodness. It's just... did he have bubbles? Yeah, he did. How long did he have bubbles? Did he have bubbles the whole time? Basically, yeah. Okay, yeah, this could have been a knockout. Because what was supposed to happen is that clan goes in, Sho uses his baller and balls into the back line, gets a couple of kills, or at least pushes people away from the clan basket, which lets the Tetra go in from the right side. We've got a jump coming in. Who's that? That's... Charger? I think that's the Charger. Yeah, it's the Charger. Charger jumps in, he doesn't have... he stays alive for a stupid amount of time, and then actually is the one who gets the ball in. And then Tetra, the Tenta has bubbles at the end of that. And that's like a straight-up knockout push, I think, if the clams favour them at all. Which, looking at it now, they don't. The clams are in very bad positions for a knockout. At the same time, it could have turned into a knockout quite easily. Like, if the clams had spawned sort of, I don't know, like here, sort of thing, for Sho to be able to pick them up, or more on the, like, this area, then maybe, but instead you got a couple of, like, down at Freezer. And I think this is, like, the initial spawn, so there's no spawn at, the other, sorry, melons. I'm trying to remember my own callouts. But yeah, like this whole push was just like a holy fuck, everything just went wrong. And it would have tied it up, but I think at the end of the day they would have lost anyway. Oh yeah, and it turned into a counter push too. That's sort of the weakness of this kind of playstyle on Clan Blitz, is if you're playing against a team that can sort of go quickly enough, like a Carbon Roller quite often can, when you're doing this backline shenanigans shit with the Tetras, you actually sort of end up being useless. Like, oh shit, they scored, now what? Oh no, I'm on the backside, I can stop this guy from jumping maybe, but there's like 3 people spawning and the basket's still open, and now this guy's gonna jump, and it was all for nothing, and now my team is screwed. And yeah, that's game. So yeah, all I remembered about this game was the setup that SK had to push to begin with, and then the complete clusterfuck that was this attempted push over here. I think this goes on to a knockout, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, this is the classic. This is what Tetras can do as well. Tetras are really good at doing what Norishio just did. I think that's game? Yeah. Okay. So, I think we can look at the kill count and just see what happened in that game. S+. Okay, so again, kill count's in the right order, it's just not the right order of magnitude. This is supposed to be like a 19, not a 9. And a lot of the time here, the difference between this map and the previous two is that there's nowhere near as much open space for the Tetra to like run around in and just be obnoxious. Like, the Tetra loses a lot of its kill threat on this map, because like when it goes in, like, you can walk around a corner and you aren't going to get shot, and like the Tetra's got to give up 2 or 3 of its rolls to get around that corner, and then it's like, you know, you can surprise him with a carbon roller or something. Whereas on the open maps, it's like you sort of run away from it, but you're running away from a Tetra. It's like running away from a falling tree. You know, it's going to catch up to you. But yeah, this was also, like, that little bit where Norishio was 1v3ing is a sign of things to come for sure. And then I think, is this? Yes, this is Rainmaker on Blackbelly. Internet, please. Okay. Internet, please. Stop it. Oh my goodness, this 4G is killing me. Oh, Australia. Based fucking Australia, dude. Alright. I'm gonna have to press on. I don't know how much of what I'm saying is getting through. I'm assuming what's happening is like the frames are dropping, but the audio isn't. Or if it is, it's like sort of stuttering a bit, perhaps. Okay. This, to me... So, I mentioned the counter picks earlier. This, to me, was like a counter pick strat. This was like, oh hey, counter picks are a thing, Blackbelly's in the pool, and they haven't decided that you can't pick Blackbelly for Rainmaker. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a cheese strat, where we do this thing that completely destroys them on Blackbelly Rainmaker, because they're just not going to even have played it in the last year and a half. Okay, good. The audio is all that really matters, because I'm pausing half the time I'm explaining shit anyway. Yeah, this game was a complete wash. I think, like, the whole aggressive playstyle that I've been talking about, where the Tetras are just, like, going in and tactically feeding, This was a bit of a fuck up by all means, this little push here, but like, you can see the idea is when you got Tetras just sort of running at you the whole game, like these guys never leave their base pretty much. These guys are stuck playing in their base the whole time, because even when they get kills on the Tetra, like someone like Sho is over here ready to get this guy back in, or the Charger's coming back in. I think the Charger has quick respawn stealth jump as well for this. Basically you got this, it's the zombie strat in full force. You got people like constantly raining in, like you can't get out of your base. This is the closest I think that they get to getting out of their base in the whole game. And they can't get anywhere. They don't have, their team comp is just too slow to get anywhere. And then it's a straight knockout from this point onward. When you're playing Rainmaker, the most important thing is how fast your team comp can move. And what's going on here? Oh my goodness, internet. I've got to stream on 4G because my wired connection is ADSL. It can't handle streaming. What is my bitrate isn't even that high. It's like, oh my goodness, this is ridiculous. Normally I don't have this kind of problem, but maybe, is that better? Seems better. Would really suck if I had to go through the whole thing, and I was really hoping that I'd be able to just like upload this straight to YouTube, but it seems as though this is going to be one of those things. I might have to re-record. Well, I think I know what, yeah, okay, alright, looks like it's okay for now. No, don't do that. Go away. I pressed spacebar on the wrong thing, and now I've got a help menu opening somewhere. It'll open in about 10 minutes time, and it'll just sort of pop up on this screen and be like, hey, did you request help? I used to when I had internet. So yeah, basically this you look at where the turf is. Like, this is like one of those games in League where, like, you just look at the map at the end and there's just like a bunch of trails coming to your base from where you spawned, and then everything else is just bleh, over here. So with Raidmaker, one of the most important things is how quickly your team comp can move, because one of the safest ways of playing the game, so like avoiding those kind of cheesy knockouts, is to constantly be playing on the other side of the map. So like you want to be fighting on their side of the map as much as possible. And then at some point you pick up the Rainmaker and push it. If you let the enemy team get the Rainmaker into your base, that's when things get dangerous, and it's for two reasons. One is because at any point if your team wipes, you are just, like, you might not necessarily get knocked out, but you are going to have a bad time. And two, if the enemy team pops the Rainmaker, they get basically a free special as long as it's not surrounded by their own ink to begin with. And one of the most reliable ways of getting that to happen is to have the Rainmaker be in the enemy base when you pop it. Which I think we actually saw in the winners bracket finals, the very end. It didn't matter at the time, but like the fact that the Rainmaker was in the base, like in the enemy team's base, you pop the Rainmaker, it's a free special for whoever popped it, and then someone picks it up and there's like turf everywhere for them to swim in. Like, it's really, really important. Like, having the Rainmaker die in the enemy base is really important for pushing. If you're going to die, it has to be in the enemy base. You don't want to, if you, on the other hand, like what people quite often do is like they'll sit in mid with the Rainmaker and sort of sit there like taking pot shots at people, waiting for their team to like make an opening for them, and then like all they're doing is giving the other team free special, and then someone's just going to come in from behind. Like, there's going to be a roller who manages to get past the spawn camp or something and just dunks you, and then it's all for nothing. Because the openings that you get in Rainmaker are very, very small, very short, and you need to have the Rainmaker already on the move when you start getting those kills in order to make full efficient use of them. And you could see at the end of this game, that's exactly what was happening. Like, it's already a 4v1 situation here. If anything, this is a little bit slow, but you can sort of see, like, the setup's there. It's, you know, if this Rainmaker isn't pushing at this point, then like these guys, Stikindrin has no incentive to like leave their base as such. Like they can sort of sit and get their numbers back and then go in. Whereas because the Rainmaker's moving, they have to make a play and they have to stop the Rainmaker. So yeah. Now on to the bracket reset, because this is a losers bracket, a tournament with a losers bracket that has bracket resets. So, this was the point. So you can imagine the Japanese chat when Blackbelly Skate Park on Rainmaker gets picked, or Rainmaker on Blackbelly Skate Park gets picked, and then the first game of the bracket reset is fucking Schellendorf. Everyone was upset. And I don't blame them. This is a shit map. Okay, I think... Yeah, so this game was really close. But it was like... You could sort of tell that SK was starting to understand how to deal with the constant, like... Tetra spam, basically. And at the same time, I think the Tetras were getting a little bit lazy with their initiation. Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about right there, is what the Tetra just did. So what the Tetra did there was like... yeah, just a bit lazy, I guess, is how I'd describe that. What he should be doing is going up this way. But, of course, he doesn't do that, and he gets ducked as a result. And that's the sort of thing where, like, once you've played... Like, you've been playing all night, and you're like, I'm a Tetra, I gotta play a little bit brain dead anyway, because that's how Tetra works. And then you just sort of let yourself slip that little bit, and you start doing stuff like this, where you sort of go in with no backup, no way of actually staying alive, against something that actually kills you, as opposed to going up this way, and sort of having all this cover to work with against this charger to make the charger think they can hit. Oh, Schellendorf isn't too bad of a map, it's really hard to play correctly. And it's sort of really slow as well. It's like a really slow-paced map. And... yeah. Oh, is that a vanilla carbon? Oh shit, it is too. Yeah, it must be a TC-specific thing. I don't know. That's really strange to me. I don't think Schellendorf is an awful map. I think it's just... it sort of runs contrary... Like, the way that you have to play it is contrary to the way that most people like playing the game. Which is like fast and sort of in your face and all that sort of stuff. Like people like deathmatching. I like deathmatching. You know, it's like one of the biggest problems I have as a competitive player, or had I should say, as a competitive player, is I like deathmatching too much and I stop fucking playing to win. And Schellendorf is not really conducive to that. It's sort of like, it's a position-based thing. Like it's all about how well you can maneuver around the map. Which, you know, is very interesting from a sort of analytical perspective, but it's pretty fucking boring when you're playing it. Okay, I just want to quickly draw attention again. So, again, this sort of acute angle setup with the tenor and... yeah, well, it's Tetra and Perry. And then the Carbon is trying to 2v1, and I think, in this case, he could have actually killed Sho if he had the Carbon Deco, but he didn't, because he doesn't have the Carbon Deco. That's sort of what I'm talking about. Like, yeah, you can have the sort of, oh yeah, we can put autobombs in the tower, and we can have rain for such and such. But at the end of the day, most of your fighting is going to happen outside of the tower, and outside of the context of the tower. So you need stuff that... you still need stuff to, like, fight with. And you still need stuff that's going to win these kinds of fights so that then the tower can keep moving. In this case, I think he was out of position anyway, he was going to die. But at the very least, he could have cut the legs out of this push instead of letting Sho just sort of get back out on the map and have free reign. And again, so I mentioned before Sho is a bit suicidal, but you can see why. If he is not suicidal, he does not get this kill. He doesn't trade. He knows it is Tetra. is going to want to go in, so he just goes in. Like, he knows that he's going to be safe. Like, this is a suicidal play that he's doing, but his Tetra is going in to make it safe for him. Easy kill. And then the Tetra just sort of jumps in somewhere. Haven't seen the Tetra for 3 seconds. Oh no, it's a splashdown. Fucking classic, dude. So, just as a reminder, this is a 3-0 in Stakinderin's favour, so they win this. And again, like, this looks just a little bit lazy to me. Like, a little bit, just, not even lazy, just absent-minded. Like, he knows the guy's sitting around the corner behind the block, that all he needs to do, like, Tetra has all 3 range, it outranges the Emperors. All he needs to do is, like, get around the corner. Like, he doesn't even need to get around the corner. He can fucking hit that guy with fall off. Maybe he was trying to avoid getting shot by the H3, but like, he does that anyway because the H3 is going to miss. I don't know, that was just a bit strange. Yeah, I'm still getting frame drops. Fucking hell. Yeah, it really feels as though these guys are getting a little bit fatigued or something, because like what was making these guys so good in the first set, even in the winners finals, like I think they lost the winners finals to a bit of a like really unfortunate sort of thing. Oh yeah, it was that curling bomb. What was working for them so well in the winners finals and the first set of the grand finals was that basically they were both like I keep saying T-Tech instead of Tetra. The Tetra and the Emperi were both like really, really on point. Like they were in the right places at the right time. They were working together really well. The Brella was like a really good sort of third wheel, so to speak. It was all working out really well for them. And then like now it feels as though the Brella is kind of a non-factor. This carbon hasn't been dealt with in about a minute and a half. Not a minute and a half, it's about 30 seconds, but it's still, you know, feels like a minute and a half. And, like, this is where Stakinderan start doing, like, the same thing back, I guess. So, one thing that Norishio, this is something that I learned from this series, is the way that Carbon Roller can be played as a similar kind of thing to a Tetra, if you play it exactly right. Like this is some fucking this is like 2700 Japanese solo queue level shit that I'm talking about here. So you can play so what I was talking about with Tetra is like it sort of pulls, going back all the way to the start of this, was talking about how it pulls the Brellas apart in a double Brella comp, against a double Brella comp rather, and it's like, you've also, just in general, what the Tetra does is it goes in and it doesn't die. Goes in, makes everyone shoot at it because it's a Tetra and you gotta deal with it because otherwise it's gonna shoot you. And runs away and then it comes back in and then it like shoots again. The Carbon in this particular series, like the grand final run back, is played almost exactly the same way, and Norishi does an incredibly good job of it. Oh shit, they are kids, okay. That probably explains... That's interesting. So there's an 11-year-old kid, and they're calling themselves Sturkinderen. Like, they know enough German to know what that means. Okay. Yeah, so what was I looking at here? Is this... Yeah, so this situation is really dicey. It's a 2v4 situation. And Norishio just sort of plays it perfectly. Like, he has... Like, it's like a vertical version of the Tetra, except it doesn't even have the fucking burst bombs to have verticality. It's not the first time that's happened, though, with, like, middle school kids winning a tournament. Or almost winning... No, they did win. Because wasn't there that team, like, a while back, where it was, like... It was that team that made people think Double Blaster was meta. I think it was Platinum Cup. It was the one that Hitzel and I casted. I say casted, it was like, we had a feed that was basically a PowerPoint presentation with extreme JPEG artifacts, and we were sort of trying to commentate on that, and it was not working out too well. But I remember there being like a Double Blaster comp or something that was made up of middle school kids. And it was the same kind of thing, actually, as what Stakindran's doing. Yeah, Norishio plays extremely well with the Carbon. Like, this is... If you want to learn Carbon, you learn from Norishio. You don't look at anyone else. Like, don't even fucking give them time of day. Just Norishio. So what's happening with Norishio is, it's kind of like the same thing as the Tetra, which is, you have to deal with this Carbon. Like, you have to get rid of it. Because, like, it's this massive problem for all of these weapons. And just like before, how Stakindran needed to send all their players to go and shoot, like, one guy, because if they sent them one at a time, they would just feed. It's the same thing in this case. The Carbon Roller has a decent time fighting Emperies and Tetras, especially when there's some verticality involved, and he can sort of isolate them. And as a result, they have to bring all of their aggression back, right? So remember what I was saying before about how one of the ways that you deal with Tetras is to slow the game down. Right, you can't. It's very difficult to match a Tetra's pace. The only way that you match a Tetra's pace is if the team comp around the Tetra is slow, because the Tetra is like one of the fastest weapons in the game. You're not really going to match it, but it is possible, like with certain team comps. Slowing the game pace down is also really hard against Tetras because it's very difficult to make a Tetra actually want to stop playing suicidally. But Norishio's Carbon Roller does exactly that. And not only does he do exactly that, but he actually just dominates them half the time anyway. Like, it's not even like a Tetra that's sort of staying alive for 12 seconds and then dying. It's like, this guy is sitting in the back of the map, just drawing people away from the front, so the tower's pushing by itself into the enemy base or something like that. And then the Carbon Roller is just sort of sitting there like, hey, come at me. I'm over here. Don't you want to kill me? You have to kill me. Come on. You know, come shoot at me. And then... you do, and then, oh shit, the tower's just gone into the enemy base, and we're not in front of it. Shit, our push is dead. Now what? Oh no, there's a Carbon still here. Oh no, he already killed my buddy, and I'm around a corner, so I can't immediately get the trade. And then, shit, he killed me too. Oh no. Like, it's sort of a... It's not great. It's not great at all. Yeah. Melon knows, dude. He's like, yep. Just because I'm 11 doesn't mean I'm an idiot. I'm onto your games. And then it's a knockout. Where's the Carbon in all this? He's just being a Carbon, basically. Please don't stand there and shoot at my teammates, I insist. Where does he... What the hell is the Carbon? Oh, there he is. What the fuck? Where did he come from? Did he just jump in? Or was he on the tower? Oh yeah, he jumped to the tower. Okay, I see. So yeah. And then it's all downhill from here. So the second game was... I don't know why they counterpicked this. This is very strange. Like, they won, yes, the previous game.
which is, you know, fair enough. But now it's okay. So this is what confuses me about this counter pick. What made their pushes so successful on the previous series was that they had that little block that they could just sort of use as a shortcut to get up onto the plat, and they don't have that on this mode. Like, it's not. They can't play anywhere near as quickly. And it also means that they're funneled into one particular... Like, they can't just swarm onto the plat. Like, they can't have a Tetra go up one side and the Emperor go up the other. They have to have them go up the same side. So you don't get that nice acute angle setup that you're going for, because you only got one way of getting in. Like, it's a choke point. So yeah, this counter pick made no sense to me. And then, as we'll see, Norishio, on the other hand, is like, yes, please pick this map so that I can 1v4 you. He dies there, but let's not dwell on that too much. So yeah, things start off decently well. And you got the Brella over there. Actually, did he die? Yeah, he did. So yeah, good start for Asamo. Asamo. Wait, what did I call him? Asano, not Asamo. What am I talking about? Okay, so what was happening here? Okay, so again, you can see what I was talking about here. If the Tetra doesn't have to go all the way from where do you jump in? Tetra's over here. Like, if the Tetra has this little block to jump up in here, he's already fighting the Charger, like in 3 seconds time. Instead, he has to go all the way back. He fucks up the wall paint, so he even loses a second there. And then he's in, but Sho's over here, like, he's already shooting people. The Rainmaker's already gone. The Charger's out of sync as well. It's like, everything's just bad. And I think nobody's died, so I'm pretty sure Sho's... Yeah, so the Tetra's trying to spawn camp at this point, which is fair enough. Because the Rainmaker's sort of stuck in the corner over here. And we see, like, Norishio's only fucking Autobomb Rush in the entire game. So that's cool. That was also cool. So yeah, look at this. Like, what is happening on the map right now? It's basically a standstill. So we go back all the way to what I was talking about before, about how you deal with Stingray comps. How do you stop teams from spamming Stingrays at you? You play faster. You get in their shit. You stop them from spamming Stingrays at you. In this case, I think they only got 3 Stingrays in this game. The Charger, that is. But it's enough. Like, they are able to... Like, in this case, you've got 3 people up here for some reason. There's, like... They're all 3v1ing this one guy. But, again, on their side of the map. Whatever kills they get on this side of the map are, like, really kind of poor. Like, they don't do a whole lot. They don't give you any kind of momentum. Because you're too far back. And as a result, everyone just sort of piles into the base. It's like... Yeah, like, look at what just happened. This guy is in, like, 1v... hang on, before. Emperors. Emperors are... Actually not dying. I thought the guy died. Oh, shit. Okay, that's even worse. Alright, never mind. I was gonna say, like, the Emperor dying there wasn't a big deal, but then he didn't even die. And, yes. And again, so I don't think it really mattered in this case, because I think he stayed alive. But you can see, this guy is paranoid of the carbon roller. He's absolutely paranoid. Like, he splashdowns nothing. He sees like a little splash from something or other. Yeah, he sees the burst bomb and he's like, fuck you, I'm splashdowning. Like, look at that shit. This guy is completely on tilt as a result of this carbon roller. Oh, why they're running Firefin? Again, it's just like one of those things where I don't think they value the Stingray particularly highly, and it makes sense because the Stingray doesn't do a whole lot for this team comp that they're running, like the super fast playstyle. They don't need it. And what's beating them in this game has nothing to do with the Stingray. The Stingray is just sort of there as a... the Stingray is being enabled, right? Like, it's not winning the game, like, it's not the thing that is causing them to lose, it is the thing that is sort of happening that, like, how do I explain this? What's causing Asano to lose is the carbon roller. What is actually happening to make them die, like what is killing them, is the Stingray by all means. But that's something like, it only happened like 3 times, like I said. Like, he's only used 1 Stingray. But that 1 Stingray was enough to get them to push. That's not Stingray spam, right? Like, that's 1 Stingray. That is literally a Stingray. But it's all enabled by the carbon roller slowing the game down and then turning all that pace back on Asano. And, like, again, they're just getting desperate at this point. Like, this was an attempt. But, like, look at this shit. What are they doing? Why? This is like, NA Splatoon that I'm watching at this point. Like, who the fuck does this? Rainmaker going first. Excuse me? Like, how paranoid of the carbon are you? What is going on? It's like the perfect setup to kill this. The H3 isn't in any kind of important position. You got the fucking charger with a straight line of sight. The roller is literally right in front of it, and then the Imperies is over here for the safe. The Imperies coming from spawn actually, for the safe stop. There is no way they get any more points than that. 100% dead that push, but they sort of went for it, thinking, oh well, fuck, it's fuck. Like I don't know. And, like, this setup looks great until you realize that everyone's fucking dead. Like, where is Sho? Sho is over here fighting... Where's the Carbon? Is the Carbon dead? Carbon's dead. When did the Carbon die? Carbon died just now. Where is Sho? Killing the Carbon. Look at this. These guys are trying to initiate. They can't initiate yet because their Slayer isn't in position. The Slayer had to go and kill the Carbon. The Brawler should have been the one killing the Carbon, but let's not worry about that too much. What I was saying before about, like, pulling people apart, like pulling these aggressive, like, grouped comps apart, is key to stopping them. And Norishio is doing a masterful job of that. Like, he is playing the Carbon in the same way that like, you can play fucking 96 Deco almost. Like, it's one of those weapons that... And I had no idea it could do this. Like, I knew that it could do some... Like, a lot of the things that Norishio is doing, obviously, it's pretty straightforward. Like, I've seen plenty of Japanese Carbons do that before, and I've done it myself before. But what Norishio is doing really well in this game has nothing to do with, like, using the Carbon Roller. What he's doing is he's mastered, like, he's mastered using turf to keep himself alive, while also abusing... Like, I don't know if he's doing it intentionally. This is just what I'm seeing. But he's also abusing the fact that, like, these guys have to go and kill him. Because, in fairness, in this case, they kind of didn't. Or, well... No, they did because they put the Rainmaker in a stupid place. If they put the Rainmaker, like... if they put the Rainmaker here, then they don't have to kill the Carbon. But they put it in a dumb place, trying to, like, get desperate points, you know, in a Splatoon style, and got themselves fucked up because of it. And yeah, so again, Tetra and... Like, this setup is fine. What these guys are doing down here is fine. They're going after the H3. That's okay. That's cool. Do that. 100% do that. You know, free kill. Just go kill the H3. It's not going to do anything to you. And this guy even jumps back to Stingray. That's, like, that is go time. But, and you can see, guy jumps back to Stingray, and the Tetris is like, ooh, food! And just jumps at the end parry. Here's the problem, though. The Slayer, like, the guy following him in is a Brella, not an end parry. The end parry goes in, from this position, rolls twice, gets the kill. This guy gets eaten by Norishio. And then Norishio just sort of is like, dude, nice Brella. It'd be a shame if something happened to it. And that's the weakness of the Brella. That's, like, the Brella can't work as a sort of +1 to the Tetra as such. The Brella only works as a +1 to the Tetra when, like, it's a, 3v2 or 3v3. When it's a 3v4 or like a 4v4, the Brella does not want to go in with the Tetra at all. It's too slow. It can't keep up with the Tetra. The end parry can. End parry should absolutely do that. And then when the Tetra dies, the Brella can come in and sort of be the +1 to the end parry. It's like it's a nice sort of flow that develops there. But instead, you've got everyone's just out of position. Everyone's in the wrong place. The Tetra is being a little bit sloppy with initiation, getting killed when he probably shouldn't be. And yeah, it's sort of all just falls apart. And again, I do want to stress, especially since this team is like a bunch of 12-year-olds, I'm not necessarily saying this is what they're thinking. I'm just saying this is what I'm seeing. Like, this is what is causing the game to go in the way it is, regardless of how intentional it is from either team. I know for a fact that a lot of these Japanese, especially the young Japanese teams, are like full of kids who just like fucking running at things, and they're very good at doing it. And they've also got this kind of idea that they need to be with their team, and that's why it works so well. And now this is just clinical. Like, you put the Rainmaker on the opposite side of the map from where they push it. Putting the Rainmaker here is the perfect thing to do. You got the lead, so they're getting special anyway. Grab the Rainmaker, put it over here, and just sit there. And just, like, shoot. Like, you don't need to do anything else. And again, Tetra's in, but they've had to pull the Rainmaker all the way from the other side of the map, so the Tetras are in, and it's like 5 seconds too soon. The end parries can't do anything to trade off the Tetras. The Tetras going in solo, about to fight an end parry. They're going to win the fight against the well, they should win the fight against the end parry, but they don't because the Carbon Roller comes in because he's not caught up fighting anyone else, and it's, yeah. Actually, I didn't get to see a whole lot of what Norishio was doing. I think I might have missed it, or he might have done it in a previous set. And then everything goes to shit. Because I'm just going to skip straight to the team comp. Oops. They fucked it up. They took everything that was working for them and threw it out in favor of the fucking meta. This is, like, what the fuck? You've been, like, this is what you gotta understand. When you're in the grand finals, the meta is like the worst thing you can pick. The reason is because the two teams in the grand finals are the two teams who have best dealt with the meta. They are the two teams that are like 100% going to win if you pick the meta, if you pick standard. You need to pick something that beats what they're doing. And they've already, like, they're picking something that beats what everyone else is doing. You've picked something that beats what everyone else is doing. Now, it's on you, both of you, like, both the teams in the grand finals, to adapt to each other and figure out what beats their team comp. So you pick the meta after you pick this slow-paced fucking bullshit team comp that's just gonna sit there and paint so that the Charger can get Stingrays and the H3 can get armors, and the Carbon, like, it can't kill a Carbon, it can't even catch up to a Carbon, let alone kill it. What are you doing? It actually ends up being a relatively close game in score wise at least, but that's only because they get in once, and it's like, yeah, we've got a Brella team comp that's like 60-point streaks on smart zones. But as soon as we're out of the map, it's like, oops, we picked the wrong comp, guys. Like this series is so good, just as an educational kind of thing. Not only do we get to see how teams deal with stuff like Stingray comps. Stingray was not a factor in this series pretty much at all. Like, yeah, it got some clutch kills at clutch times because it's a Stingray and that's what it does. But it wasn't a factor. Like, it wasn't what won games. It was like something else set up for the Stingray to be the coup de grace. This is like a team... You can tell these guys are broken. These guys are like, I am so sick of dealing with this fucking carbon roller. I don't know what to do. It's definitely the carbon roller that's the problem, and not my lazy initiation on Tetras, and not my feeding because I'm too reliant on the Tetra being more suicidal than I am on the end parries. And then they pick up an H3 out of fucking... Like, why would you pick H3 against carbon? Like, what are you actually thinking? You know, it's like they take everything that was working for them, throw it out because they're like, well, it's the meta, and they lose the game. As soon as I saw this team comp, I was like, what the fuck are you doing? And then, like, it ended up being like 20 to 100 or something after a little while, and I was like, yeah, what do you expect? Like, where is the aggression? Look at what, like, SK just crossed the map. They're in the what did you expect? Like, what did you expect? By picking H3. An H3 comp, an armor comp. Soldier, I'll summarize everything that I've, or most of the things that I said in a minute, because this is the last game. Like, look at this. Specials. Specials. All 4 specials up. Yeah, okay, cool. You got two reigns. And you're sort of building your charger. These guys already have 4 specials because they just painted your base. Like, good work. Now you're going to... Like, the only reason that this game didn't end right now is because the Stingray didn't do anything. And, like, the double rain... Yeah, cool, you got 2 rains. Now the carbon just sort of rushes at you, and yeah, it dies. But, like, you've had to sit there, again, trying to kill it with a Brella, which can't kill anything very quickly. For, like, 10 seconds, they get an extra, like... Well, not 10 seconds, they get, like, an extra 5-10 points out of that. And then, yeah, they get their setup. Yes, we are in. We have 2 Brellas and an H3. We are going to now paint your base from on top of the zone, and hope that you don't do anything. And then they get stung. Yeah, Stingray fight won by Secundran, and Mauricio is just... That was a really good shot from Show. You gotta realize, these guys are still good players. Like, they obviously know how to play this comp, otherwise they wouldn't have picked it. But it's like, holy shit. Look, like, just compare this positioning. Yeah, you can sort of see it took them a moment to sort of remember, oh right, this is how we beat it. And then they're in again. And I think this just goes to a knockout at this point. Maybe not. I feel like this is less of a wash than I remember it being. Maybe at the time it was like, you could sort of tell. Like, watching it live, like, you could sort of tell that it was like, it's a close game in score, but, like, it just does not look good. And the other thing is, you got to remember, this is a counter pick. This is a counter pick map. They picked this map and said we're going to run this comp. It's not like Stakinderen has picked Wahoo World and they've been like, oh shit, our comp doesn't work here, which it does, by the way. Tetra does work here. It's one of the few things that can actually take court control. But like they've just sort of said, screw it. We're picking Wahoo World. We're picking this team comp. We're gonna sit here and camp and hope that they don't do the same thing to us that we've been doing to them the whole time. Like, look at this shit. Like, it's like clockwork. Not the team. Yeah, they die, but, like, there's nothing happening in the base. There's nothing, like, preventing these guys from immediately turning around and building their specials back up and getting ready to push back in again. And you can see, like, the H3's got special, the Stingray's available, Stingray goes off, Armor goes off, and parries are in on the right. Oh no, on the left, the Brella's in on the right. Not Brella, Carbon. And free retake, like super easy. And yeah, it's 2v2 right now. I think they get the zone back, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Yeah, they got the zone back. So yeah, it's a lot closer than it looks, and I think that's partly because it seems as though like the Tetra is on the H3. The guy who was playing Tetra is on H3. I'm pretty sure he's... I don't know, it feels like he actually is quite good with the Tetra. Not Tetra, H3. Which is kind of strange for a Tetra player, but, you know. Oh yeah, this is... And then Narisha gets in, and then it's like, how do we kill this guy? Narisha getting in right here was sort of the thing that clinched it, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I am misremembering this game. I could have sworn it was a lot more one-sided than this. I think what it was is it felt really one-sided at the first like minute, and then it got a bit crazy because I think both teams are starting to play a little bit stupid. Because I think this was like 11 o'clock at night, and you know they just played a full double bracket thing. Actually, it wasn't a knockout. It went to time before it could knock out. So yeah, what was happening in that game? Yeah, really low kill counts. Like these guys had basically what characterized that game was a complete shift from Asano pushing SK out of their comfort zone of being able to have like you can sort of tell. I don't think this is like a planned thing that they do. It's just how it works. It's like it's just something that I'm seeing. What happens with SK is it seems that they've got like this kind of H3 charger thing where they've got a couple of specials they can sort of use as a way to get in reliably, and they got like a the N parry to go with it. So like the N parry likes the armor. The Stingray works really well with the N parry as well. Like you just sort of Stingray about where the N parry is, and you start getting kills with it. It's kind of like having a +1 without needing to be present. Then the Carbon just sort of does its thing. And the Carbon can slow the game down really well. Make it so that like if the Carbon's in, people have to deal with the Carbon, much like how before we were talking about how the Tetra has to be dealt with at some point. If it's behind you, Carbon's the same way. And yeah, like you sort of pull people away from doing things that they would otherwise like to be doing. And this team comp here, to me, is just like, firstly, it's the meta, so you know that these guys can beat it. Like, you know 100%. These guys would not be in the grand finals if they could not beat this team comp. Like, how tournaments work. If these guys have beaten everyone else and you're using what everyone else is using, chances are they can beat what you're using. Like it's anyway. And again, like 8 Stingrays. Look at this shit. 8 Stingrays. He's never pushed out of... I wouldn't be surprised if he had died like once. And 7 Stingrays here. Yeah, sure, they slow the game down. And they get their Stingrays. And they get their armors. But this team, like, 8 Stingrays, 7 armors. 7 Stingrays, 4 armors. And yeah, you got 10 Rains, which... who cares? Like, Norishio doesn't care about Rain. And Perry doesn't care about Rain. Like, what is a Rain supposed to do? Paint the zone? What the fuck are you doing? Like, Rain is not a... Rain isn't a special you build your team comp around. That's like one of the other weaknesses of this double Brella thing, is like it's built in the right way, which is to make it based on, like, make a team comp based on your primary weapon and your sub, rather than your specials. Because the specials are limited in how many you can get per game, whereas the number of times you can, like, go in with your main weapon is less limited. But yeah, so, like... I don't know. This was just really disappointing to just see this team comp, and it's like, yeah, they made it close. And frankly, again, it's kind of because the H3 kept getting kills that it really shouldn't have. And you can see he ended with 5. Like, those kills mattered in the end. It was like those sort of... What normally happened with this team is when this team was like one player up, they were still dangerous because you would always have a Tetra and Umbrella about to super jump into this guy. Whereas they switch over to this and they lose their they just completely remove all pace from their team comp. Yeah, because that's what I'm saying, is like that's a dumb strategy to try. Like, if you're gonna try another strategy, don't try the strategy that everyone else is using. Do they try meta in game 1? No. These guys used the same team comp pretty much the whole way through, and then just randomly pulled out the full-on try-hard meta strat at the very end, and it failed them. Soldier, you asked before what the point of double Brella is. The idea is that with double Brella, well, with a single Brella, let's talk single Brella first. Main thing the single Brella does is it wins 1v1s. Like, it can stand, as long as it has a turf advantage, like it has turf to work with, so it isn't going to just sort of get circle strafed. The Brella can sort of sit in its own ink and win 1v1s. If something comes at it, it's going to win that fight. Even a Blaster. Like, Blaster versus Brella in like a 1v1 thing kinda doesn't... Like, it favors the Blaster in that the Blaster can shoot past the Brella, but the Brella doesn't need to take a fight where the Blaster is favored. If the Blaster comes up to the Brella and the Brella has turf advantage, the Brella can, like, rush the Blaster down. Like, it's fast enough to do that. You've got your shield to protect yourself from directs. It's actually not as lopsided of a matchup as people like to say it is. Poorly played Brellas, yes, will feed the Blasters, but these kinds of like the Brella players we've got in this kind of tournament are not going to fuck up against Blasters, which is why you don't see them get picked a whole lot in Japan. So yeah, 1v1 Brellas win, or at the very least they don't lose, and they allow their team to sort of come in and help. So what do Brellas lose to? They lose to 2v1s. They lose to having one guy on one side, one guy on another side that isn't like sort of the same, less than 45-degree angle kind of thing. And the other guy shoots the Brella user while the other guy is like keeping the Brella shield out. Like, it's a safe 2v1. You can't really trade. So when you have 2 Brellas, though, you have this ability to, like, prevent that from happening. You have the ability to prevent these 2v1s from happening, because you've always got that sort of second way of, like... You have a way of protecting your Brella. Like, the Brellas stick together and they shoot the same target, so sometimes they split. Sometimes one shoots one shoots the other, and it sort of requires that in order to break that open, you need to either pull the Brellas apart, like, make them chase you, or you need to, like, 3v2. You need to turn one of those 1v1s that you're in into a 2v1, but that requires 3 people, which is a lot more difficult to do. Like, a lot more difficult in terms of likelihood, a lot more terms in... Can we analyze Hexen throwing in Rainmaker against Hive? No. I'm going to let Hexen make a fool of himself. I don't need to make a fool of him for him. And then, of course, the H3 spams armor, so even if you do happen to get like that one opening on the Brella, it's got armor half the time, so it's like, fuck, what do I do? And it also helps to counter like the Brella stuff, not the Brella, the Blaster stuff as well. So it's like it's a really well made team comp. It is a good team comp. There's a reason it's meta. And of course, the Stingray benefits, like the Charger benefits a lot from this because it is never really. It's really difficult to get through that front line to get to the Charger to stop them from using Stingrays, and it's really difficult to get past the front line in general. So like when the Stingray is down, the way you beat Stingray is to act faster than its downtime allows it to. Then its downtime allows it to counterplay you, and the Brellas stop that from happening. So you've got a really good way of abusing Stingrays by having a team comp, like a front line in the front. It's not going to die. It's just going to sit there, let the other team break themselves on you because they have to do that to get rid of the Stingrays, but they can't because there's two Brellas in the way and they're armored, and it's a nightmare to deal with. However, it's not unbeatable, as we've just seen. The way that you beat it is by running either, like, you have to have that super fast sort of reset time. So the way Astral, it's not quite that simple. I'll get to that. The way that you deal with this team comp is by having a way to keep that speed in spite of the front line that's trying to slow everything down. So you've got you've got two Brellas and an armor. So what's the problem with that? Well, the H3 is one weakness, as I've already mentioned. And the other weakness is that the Brellas are slow. Like, they are slow to move. When a Blaster, Blaster has slow walk speed and all that sort of shit, but the way a Blaster actually moves in a fight is like they'll do jump shots. Like, they'll jump and shoot, jump and shoot, jump and shoot. So they have sort of that forward momentum. And the other thing is that when a Blaster is going to... the way you fight Blasters is a little bit different. You can't... Like, you can sort of run at a Blaster, or you can run away from a Blaster. You can't sort of, like, kite a Blaster, so to speak. Whereas Brella, you kind of can circle strafe a little bit, because the AoE doesn't, like, catch you. It's a bit weird. Like, I don't want to go too much into the details there, because it's going to take too long to explain. So, what you need to do is you need to pull the Brellas apart, basically, to make them... And the reason you do that, the reason you want to do that is because they're slow. The speed makes it easy to pull them apart. Because when you go in with like a Tetra, you shoot their shield for a bit and then you back up. And it's like, Brella doesn't really want to turn around, right? Like, the Brella doesn't really want to show their back to a Tetra because they will die if they do. So the Brella has to keep moving toward the Tetra. They're stuck. They have to. If they don't, they die. If they do, they run away from their teammate. And then suddenly you've got either two Brellas chasing the Tetra into the back of the base, and the Tetra is never going to die to that because the Tetra is just going to keep running, and the Tetra out is much faster than the Brellas. Which then leaves the front completely exposed. The Emperor can just go straight in through the front. Alternatively, one Brella chases the Tetra, which is quite often what happens, and then, oh shit, we can't 2v2 anymore with the Brellas. One of the Brellas just gone off fighting some fucking Tetra in the back line, in the back of the base. And that means the other Brella's still in the front, though. What's he doing? And then, like, the Emperor goes in, starts fighting, and then whoever's with him just goes and kills the Brella. It's free 2v1. Like, that's one of the things, is 2v1s against Brellas are super free, because the Brella can't, like... It can trade if you play it wrong, but it's like, if you don't play it wrong, you keep the Brella shield open, and then the other guy just comes in and gets the kill for free. And then, of course, once one Brella's down, the other Brella is stuck, like, completely exposed as well. And then the H3 is complete shit. It can't assist the Brellas, except with armor. And then the Charger is exposed. So the whole team comp falls apart the moment one of these guys dies. That normally doesn't happen, but you can pull them apart with stuff like Tetra and Perry, and apparently Carbon Roller. So that is why these two teams are in the finals. And actually, I mentioned at the start of the stream, the team that got third is also... They also did a similar thing. They just used a slightly worse strat. Like, you could tell that they thought it through and they had the right reasoning, they just didn't use the right strat. Where were we? This was winners finals, and then losers finals was here, and it was a 2-0. So yeah, these two teams and the third place team all had the same thing in common, which is that they built their team comp, either intentionally or not, with the idea of pulling the brothers apart and stopping them from forming that sort of impenetrable wall. Just undermining the front line and preventing them from getting anything happening. And then yeah, so like overall, you could see why this team comp was such a bad idea. Yes, in theory, it works really well, especially on splat zones where like you don't necessarily have the luxury of like going into the enemy team's base because sometimes you just can't do it. And you know, having a stalling tactic is fine on splat zones because you don't need to push forwards. But this, and apparently, actually, I don't know if Gamba will be still in chat, but I think SK lost like every splat zones in the finals except for this one. So like they were actually playing on the weakest mode for SK, and they still lost. Like, if anything, this should have been free as fuck. If they played their standard team comp, I think they would have been fine. But yeah, it's not great. And yeah, like you could sort of see, it sort of just all went downhill. Like the first game was really, really close, but then you could see that what's his name? The Tetra. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the Tetra's name again. But you could see he was getting a little bit lazy on his initiation, and it was sort of costing them a bit. Like they weren't getting in as much, and at the same time, Noritio like remembered that he mained Carbon and started like abusing the fuck out of people's tendencies against Carbon. Keep in mind, so what I was saying about Carbon, about how it's like it was also doing a similar thing to the Tetras. It was just using like stealth to do it. Marshu, thank you. The Carbon was using stealth to do what the Tetras was doing overtly, and that was really interesting to me, especially because it was like you can tell people are not good at dealing with Carbon Roller. Like a really well played Carbon Roller just makes people lose their fucking minds. It's like you play against any other weapon that sharks like that, and it's like, oh, you know, it's a 10 attack. You know, we fucking, I don't know, throw bombs at it and make it do a thing that it doesn't want to do, and then you know, it pops out and you go and kill it. Like, and then they come against this Carbon Roller, and it's like, what do we do? How do we handle this? How do we kill this thing? And it takes 10 seconds to kill the Carbon Roller, and by that point these guys don't even need to run quick respawn anymore, even though I think they still do, and they're getting 8 Stingrays a game. So yeah, this whole series, like I think the winners finals was also really good for the same reasons. This whole grand finals was really, really good, like a really good way to like understand, to look at team comps and sort of how they work, how everything, how to understand it all. It's a good way of displaying like what Japan is doing to beat Stingray comps. It's just overall a really impressive display of like how you can break the game open. Right? Like everyone in NA is losing their fucking minds because it takes them 10 minutes to organize a single push, and they wonder why a Stingray's always up to stop them. Like, just play faster. Like, it's whenever normally when someone says like just do this, it's like them being stupid, but in this case it is actually play faster. Oh, the ink brush, that was I did watch the ink brush game. I think this was it back here. I think the ink brush game was just really sad. No, that wasn't it. I don't think they even got to play. Oh yeah, Cool and Cool got washed. Hansha was playing very badly. I don't know what the hell was going on. Yeah, Cool and Cool. The Cool and Cool game was really disappointing. Oh yeah, they didn't even get the ink brush didn't even get into the tournament, did they? Forgot about that. I thought because they got second in like Zone Plus or something, or Area Plus Cup or something like that. And I thought that like I was wondering why they were in SJOpen Day 3 because I was like, didn't they get second in SJOpen Day 2? But then no, it was like Area Cup Plus or something. They got second in. And if you want to understand what was going on with the ink brush thing, basically what they were doing was using the Tenterbrella to sort of initiate. It's like I was saying before. Tenterbrella is really ham-fisted. Tetra is one of the things that you need for an initiating weapon is the ability to like threaten the enemy team. Like you force them to deal with you. Like I was saying about both the carbon and the Tetra is. You have to go and kill this thing because if you don't, it will kill you. Who the fuck says that about a Tenterbrella? Tenterbrella goes in with it surfs its shield through the enemy team and it's like, yeah, okay, you don't kill it. What's it gonna do back there though? Like, is it gonna come out from the safety of its shield and kill you? No, because even if it does come out of the safety of its shield, it's not gonna kill you. It's a fucking Tenterbrella. Like, you just sort of walk sideways and it gets like 60 damage on you and then you kill it. The brush. I think the brush was a really cool idea because it's again one of those. It has the same idea as like the carbon roller, in fact, where like and it's played the same. Like the guy plays it in a very similar way too, at least when he's able to. Where like he sort of lurks around, and like they have to deal with the brush, but. But yeah, it was like they again pull the brellas apart, but the problem is that people don't respect brushes as much. Because like when you die to a carbon, it's like you instantly die. Like you get dunked, you get burst bomb comboed, you die. When you die to a brush, it always feels as though you could have won the fight. So like people don't respect the brush as much, and they don't care. Like they're like, oh, the brush just went off, ignore it. We'll just keep going. And even if that's a dumb idea. They still like mentally they have the kind of edge of like, okay, we're gonna keep moving, we're gonna push up, and then the brush has to come in and make something happen. So what's up, DJ? Why doesn't anyone in the West play Tetris? Part of the reason is because people play it like Amperi. Tetra is not a weapon that you can play as a Slayer, because it's too shit. The Tetra is a bad weapon. And by that I mean the weapon itself is bad. Like, the bullets it fires are weak. It just has this game-breaking fucking mechanic of it can roll 4 times. And it's sort of paired with L3 range and all that sort of thing. Tetra is a shit gun. Like, if you are trying to kill something with it, half the time the Tetra is just going to decide no. Like, it does fuck all damage, it can't kill things with armor. Like, you can't run Object Shredder on it because you need Stealth Jump. The accuracy while walking is atrocious, the fire rate is atrocious, the fall-off damage is horrible. Like, everything about it is really bad for killing things. And yet, for some reason, when you see Tetra players in the West, they're, like, trying to fucking shark with it. Like, they're trying to go on big flanks. They're trying to, like, play it like an end parry. And that's just fucking stupid. Like, actually stupid. It's a complete... Like, if you play Tetras like that, what you're saying is, like, I have no idea what this weapon is. I don't understand how kill time works. I don't understand, like... I don't understand what is important as Slayer. I don't understand how important reliability is. I don't understand what my weapon kit is telling me to do. It's like, if you play Tetris as a Slayer, you are fucking, like, just learn the fucking game. Light Tetras are like the Slayer's Tetra. You know, it's like they have a special that you kind of want to get. It's not a huge deal if you don't. And they have a sprinkler, so you have to stay alive for that to do anything. And it's like, it's not what Tetras want to be. Tetras want to be dying. Tetras actually want to be dying. like what you want to be doing with Tetra is going in, getting 3 assists, and dying, and then jumping to your end parry after a couple of seconds. Like, that way you don't have to ever worry about ink efficiency. You just hold the right trigger down the whole game, basically. You get all your ink back. You don't even care about splashdown. You can get splashdown if you want. If you get like 2 kills, you got your splashdown. You press the right stick at some point. Maybe you die in splashdown. Maybe you don't. If you do die in splashdown, you come out of spawn with a fucking splashdown on deck, ready to just jump into went parries again. Like, it's the whole point of the Tetra is to go in and feed. I'm actually saying that, KT. Yes, high death count on Tetra is fine. The whole point of the Tetra is to make opportunities for the end parry on your team to go and get 3 kills. However, that being said, you don't just run in every time. You do have to understand what you're trying to do. You can see that part of the reason Asano lost is because the Tetra started losing sync with the end parries. The Tetra's initiation only matters if the if the initiation is for something. If the Tetra goes in and feeds like 1 versus 3, and there's no Tetra to come in and get kills, no end parry to come in and get kills, the Tetra is actually feeding. That's not tactical feeding. That's real feeding. That is, I am being an idiot because I have to be to play Tetra, but my teammate is not on the same page. So you can also sort of see, like, the weakness of the Tetra comp is that you have to play that bit suicidally, which means when things start sort of slowing down, you have to be extremely aware of what that entails for the Tetra player. The Tetra needs to understand, okay, the game has slowed down, I need to match that pace a little bit. I need to sort of gradually speed the game back up, not just like go straight into the enemy spawn and get nothing done. You can see, toward the end of the game, toward the end of that series, the Tetra was constantly up in the... This is a completely different game, mind you. This is like fucking first round or second round. But it's Inkblot because apparently that's popular. Like, the Tetra was like quite often... Hello? Please stop. The Tetra was quite often like up here after a fight in mid. And that's good. That's where the Tetra wants to be. The problem is the end parry was also over here. Like, the end parry needed to be... For the Tetra to be here, the end parry needs to be like here. Or like here or something. Like, the end parry needs to be in a position where they can trade off the Tetra. If the end parry's back here, Tetra's feeding up here. So yeah, it's like it's just a good example of like the team comp. The team comp makes sense. It counters what Stakindran was doing, but then Stakindran played their team comp in the right way to beat what Asano was doing. Asano. Kick? Yeah, Asano was doing. And in response, Asano didn't adapt. They didn't say, okay, our team comp can still do this just fine. We just need to be a little bit different. I'm sort of exaggerating the positions a little bit here, Soldier. What was actually happening? Like, where's the fucking... Half the series in this game were on this map, so surely I can find one. There we go. I'm blue. So what was actually happening was, like, the Tetra would be sort of here, and the end parry should be, like, here, or here. But, like, I was sort of circling the general area of, like, that. But even then, like, if this part is painted because the Tetra's, like, gone in and done painting, like, the end parry can be here and sort of curling bomb in or something like that and get in just fine. The end parry, the Tetra, meanwhile, can sort of go out the back, or even just run at people, like, or down into here. Like, the Tetra has options here. You can drag the fight back toward the end parries and all that sort of stuff. So when I say that the Tetra has to play a little bit brain dead, what I'm talking about is the Tetra needs to go in stupidly, like, in stupid situations, but then they also need to go in at the right time. They need to understand what their team is doing and get them in. And that's what happened toward the end of this series, is the Tetra stopped doing that. The Tetra started playing solo, and basically exposing why the Tetra is a shitty gun. Is the Tetra can't get those kills solo. Yes, the Tetra can get in, by all means. Tetra can go in. Like, the Tetra is here. Let's say the Tetra is here right now. Like, he's fighting an H3 and a Charger. And, like, yeah, he can win that fight 1v1, 2v1. So can the Emperi, though. The Emperi wins that fight just fine. The Emperi destroys that fight. The Emperi can't lose that fight, unless the H3 gets a crazy kill. But the Tetra can just sort of be like, you know what, I feel like being a Tetra today, so I'm going to miss, and I'm not going to kill this H3 very quickly, which means this guy's going to get a couple of tap shots on me, and I'm going to be down to like 20 HP, and then I'm going to die to a fucking slight bomb explosion. That's the main difference. Like, Emperi kills this in half a second, Tetra kills this in like a second, and then that has a knock-on effect to what this guy can do. Yeah, the Tetras are basically a decoy, but they're a decoy that can get kills. That's the important thing. Let's go back to... where's the... This is probably the game where it happens. I just need to find it. This looks like it, actually. No, not quite. Happens later. Oh yeah, Soldier, you get what I mean though. Like, you go on one and then you kill the other because they can't sort of help each other. Doesn't matter which order you do it in. Like, yeah, probably the H... I would go for the H3 first because I think the H3 is more threatening than a tap-shotting charger. And I say that because if you go after the charger first, the H3 is going to have like a couple of opportunities to start getting hits on you. And if the H3 hits you, it does hurt. And quite often it will get like 2 shots on you. The way that, like, the reason H3 is bad is because, like, when the H3 doesn't have that sort of initial 4 bursts of damage, or attempted damage, it doesn't get kills. Or if it does, it's like an accident, basically. Okay, I think this is... Okay. This is a kind of an awkward example, because firstly there's a thing in the way, and secondly, like, this guy's dead anyway because he's an H3. But this is what I'm talking about. Okay, this is the Tetra, this is the Emperi. The Emperi is the main threat. The Emperi is the thing that's going to kill you fastest. Yes, I'm thinking in terms of, like, using this little thing to stop the charger from having a free shot on you. And also because the H3 is going to have a clearer shot upwards. So, okay, Tetra is over here, Emperi is over here. Tetra is the decoy. This guy's dead anyway. Let's just pretend that this is, like, in the middle of the map somewhere, and you've got, like, a fight breaking out, the Tetra's gone in, this guy's like an Emperi or something. Who should he kill? Does he kill the Tetra? Does he kill the Emperi? Well, the Emperi is the more threatening weapon. Right, the Emperi is the thing that is going to kill you fastest. It is going to... Like, the Tetra can miss, the Emperi kind of can't. So, if you shoot the Emperi, the Tetra, though, like, is free. The Tetra doesn't need to use any of its rolls. The Tetra can just sit there and shoot you. And even if the Tetra is a little bit inaccurate, it's fine. Like, it has an extra, like, second or so to get that kill. If you replace this Tetra with a Tentabrella, that changes. So the Tentabrella here, instead of a Tetra, is sort of sitting here in its shield. And you're like, okay, cool. If I kill the Emperi, what happens? Well, let's say again this is not an H3. We're pretending again this is an Emperi, not an H3. This guy can sort of run at the Emperi here, and he can win that 1v1. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Hard to say. It's a coin flip. But the point is, it's an out. Like, he can get out of the situation. He goes in, he kills the Emperi. Let's say he does that. Then what's the Tenebrella doing? He's still stuck over here because he's launched his shield. Like, you know, what... He can't help. Like, he can sort of take a pot shot and he might do, like, 30 damage, but he's not going to necessarily win that fight. And then on top of that, who cares if there's a Tenebrella behind you? It's like, you know where it is at all times. It has this giant fucking shield that it likes to shoot everywhere that tells you exactly where it is at all times on the map. So, like, he has no reason to go back and kill this guy. He can then just go straight to the tower and get the kill on, I think that's the charger. No, the charger's back here. You can go and get the kill on the roller. Yeah, basically soldier. So yeah, like that's the main difference. You need a weapon, like a tent umbrella only functions that way when people like forget that it's a tent umbrella and it's basically no threat to you. And this is like, I played tent umbrella the same way people are playing it now. Back when it was first released, I was like, oh yeah, you just launch umbrellas with it and you can't die. And then I was like, oh wait, like the problem with it was, yeah, you can launch umbrellas and not die, but who cares? They can just sort of walk past you, right? And the other thing was the netcode wasn't great for tent umbrellas at that point, but like if there's a tent umbrella here, this guy just doesn't care. He just goes in. He's like, fuck you. You know, I got a friend here. I can just go through you and help my friend. And then your charge is exposed because you got a tent umbrella to, like, the tent umbrella is trying to come and oh no, my charge is in danger. I need to come back and help. Oh shit, I'm a tent umbrella, which means I'm a slow as shit weapon that can't kill anything anyway. And yeah, tent being used to store charges is stupid. It's like a complete, like, why do you care about a charger? Like, it's like, tent umbrella being used to store charges is fucking stupid. Why are you stalling a charger? Why do you care about a charger? If it doesn't have Stingray, the way you deal with a charger is you make its life miserable. Like, the charger already is basically not a threat. Okay. Yeah, it's complete bullshit. So, here's the thing with chargers, and this is coming from an ex-charger main. Like, I main charger a long time ago, but this is still, like, relevant. The thing with chargers is chargers have to take what they can get in terms of kills. So, let's look at what the charger's doing here. Just using this as an example. His sightline, obviously he has control over this, he doesn't need to worry about it. So his sightline is basically this kind of angle. He can't hit here. He can hit sorta, kinda through here, kind of, sort of like that. And then he can, like, shoot up here. If someone's here, he can't shoot them here, can't shoot them here. He's out of range past about this point. Like, the charger is not a problem. Who cares what the charger's doing? Why are you picking a weapon to counter charger? What the fuck is wrong with you? Do you even understand how chargers work? Chargers can't kill things that don't present themselves. The thing with chargers, like, chargers have to take what kills they can get. They are not very mobile. They have to take these little vantage points. This guy, in fairness, should be sort of up here kind of thing. This guy should be standing on this little block here. But to be fair, actually no, he can't because it's tower control. He would have had to use the tower to get onto that little block. And even then, I think he was a bit too paranoid about Norishio doing Norishio things. And so when he's here, yeah, he gets this nice angle where he's got like a clean shot up here, clean shot through here, clean shot up here, except for up here, and a clean shot up here. That's good. That's what a charger wants. But most of the time, the charger can't get that. So what you're worried about with the charger, and this is why Stingray is so important for charger, is Stingray removes that. In order for this guy to use Stingray, and I think he in fact does this, is he just pops down here, clicks the right stick, and then he doesn't care about these distractions anymore. He doesn't care about the fact that he can't shoot through walls, because now he can shoot through walls. That's basically how it works. So if you're picking a weapon to counter a charger, because the charger is what's killing your team, that is a sign that your team is feeding. Because the only way chargers get lots of kills is if they get a lot of Stingrays that get a lot of kills, which shouldn't happen because realistically at this point you shouldn't be dying 2 or 3 to a Stingray. Stingrays should be limited to basically 1 death at this stage, assuming you know what you're doing to counter them. Or if they're more than 1 kill, it's like it's a kill that's on someone who was already fighting and couldn't like dodge the Stingray, and the Stingray was just sort of finishing the kill off. When a charger gets a kill, it's usually because someone is like basically disrespecting the charger in the way that, in a bad way. You're supposed to disrespect charges. You're supposed to say, like, fuck you, you can't hit me. You're supposed to, like, hang around sort of here and sort of show, like, the barrel of your gun and make the charger look at you and say, oh, he's going to poke out in a second, but then you never actually do because you're like, I'm wise to you, bitch. Yeah, see you, Toad. And so, like, you make the charger, like, look at you and you're like, no, I'm not going to actually die to you today. I'm just going to sit here and be annoying. And I'm going to kill your team, and you're going to be like, but I can't save you, teammate. I'm sorry. Sumimasen. And then, yeah, like, your team's meanwhile just over here dying to these guys. Yeah, so Charger, like, the Charger's biggest problem is the fact that most of the kills that it gets are not relevant to the game. If it gets a kill on, like, a guy over here sort of thing, it's like, okay, but the tower's here. Maybe he gets a kill up here, and yeah, okay, that's relevant. But he only gets that kill if he's allowed to get that kill. Like, if the other guy just stands here and shoots at the tower. Whereas what should be happening is, oh, the charger's there, we can see him because he's on the fucking stack, and there's a giant fucking sun on his gun that shows you exactly where he is. And, like, whereas if you stand, like, here, you can hit the tower just fine. You stand, like, here, there's a fucking thing in the way. If you stand at booth, there's a thing in the way. Like, if you stand at here, you can hit the tower from all these angles. But this is the only one... This one here is the only one that the charger can actually hit. And in order for the charger to change that, they need to go to this spot here. But then the problem is, if they're here, they're vulnerable, they can die. So that's the weakness of the charger, that's how you're supposed to play around it. Is you... that plus the stuff I was talking about with the pace, like speeding the game up. So what is an anchor that can avoid that problem? Well, you've got things like the Jet Scorcher. The Jet Scorcher needs to be used a lot more, because the Jet Scorcher is an... Jet Scorcher, I think, is a really good idea for dealing with the current NA meta. Because the Jet Scorcher is a faster-paced anchor, because it's like the Jet Scorcher can be on the tower in this situation. Like, the Jet Scorcher can be here and, like, throw a burst bomb, like, in burst combo. Like, it can see that Norishio doesn't use Ninja Squid, so he can actually see that Norishio is coming and be like, fuck you, burst bomb, and then, like, this guy can be off the tower and, like, clean him up. Like, it's a weapon that can be hands-on. It can be in your face. It dies more often, that's true, but it also gets Stingray a little bit faster than Charger, especially now that Charger's had its, like, 5% nerf. And it's also, like, it's the kind of weapon that can trade off really well when you're pushing into the enemy team's base this heavily. Like, when you've got this kind of team comp, having a Jet Scorcher is so nice. Because suddenly, instead of your Charger being over here when Norishio's doing his thing, and having to have your end parry go all the way back to defend the Charger, your Jet's going to be up here somewhere, instead of back here. Like, your Jet goes in with everyone else. So Norishio is suddenly, like, not able to go that way, he has to actually come up this way. And then the end parry gets the kill here, instead of back here, and the Tetra is, like, meanwhile still on the way in, and this guy can just turn around and go straight back in. So, like, Jet Scorcher makes a lot of sense, and it makes a lot of sense to the NA meta as well, because it's like, it's still a Stingray, you still want your Stingray on the NA meta. You can't really ditch Stingrays just yet, because the game's still too slow to do that. And with Custom Jet and Heavy and whatnot, you can, like, play more actively. You can improve your team's pace before, like, you don't have to have, like, these super fucking all-star Tetras who are going to go in and get triple kills when the weapon is fighting against them. You can have, like, your standard shooters. Like, you can have your standard team comp and then have a Jet that just speeds these guys up a little bit and gets them that little bit faster so that they can get in before the Ray. So yeah, like, that's probably the main thing I'd recommend to the NA players is, like, pick up Custom Jet, understand how it works, understand how the spawn systems work, like how to outpace special comps. Soldier, don't even joke about that. And yeah, like, that's the way you deal with it. It's basically like a light version of the way that Japan's dealing with it. What about Aussie players? Australia's different. because Australia has problems with, like, okay, I'll put it to you this way. Australia, I think, is more strategically developed than North America, because there is strategy, like it exists, which makes it more developed. Um, NA has aim, so this might sound disparaging, partly because it is a little bit, but it's like when you have a big disparity in aim, that directly translates to a big disparity in game pace. Because pretty much if one team, like, let's just use this as an example again. If these guys are Australian, this guy gets a kill on this guy, and this guy takes an extra second and a half to kill this guy. Like it's a problem with, like, it takes an extra 2 or 3 seconds for an Australian team to do the same thing that an NA team would do. So even if the Australian team has all the right ideas and is like, yeah, okay, we have an idea of what we want to do and what we want to win and how we want to win and all that sort of stuff, they're just going to take too long doing it. Like, they're going to take too long executing. Like if these guys take 5 seconds to kill this one guy, which is very possible in Australian games, Mauricio is just sort of already on the tower at that stage. Whereas I think if we, like, go back to this and play it forward a little bit, I think Mauricio sort of sits there and he, like, tries to go in. Wait, no, someone else comes in and helps out to kill. Yeah, Mauricio is like, he goes in too late. But if 5 seconds later on that engagement, and Mauricio doesn't go in too late. And suddenly Mauricio being a bit too late is no longer a problem, because it's not a thing that's, like, it's not the case anymore. He is not too late. So when I talk about game pace, I'm talking about a lot of different things, but it's basically like the ability for you to do things on the map. The faster that you can, like, the more frequently that you can do things, it doesn't matter if you're doing, like, sort of the wrong things, because there is a point at which strategy there is a point. When there's any kind of pace disparity, strategy just goes out the window. Like, you're just going to die to fucking aimers. But that's okay in, like, top-level Japanese play, because, like, everyone is about as good as each other, and they need to use strategy. So, like, when... with game pace, it's, like, the ability for you to do things. So, like, there's a situation where there's a guy in the corner, and you need to kill him. The game pace is the difference between that taking, like, 2 seconds and that taking, like, 5 seconds. And then if that takes 2 seconds, that's an extra 3 seconds for you to go and do something else. And then that's probably also going to take, like, 2 seconds as well. Like, maybe there's a guy, maybe his buddy is coming in from spawn. If you get that kill in 2 seconds, you can turn around on the guy who's coming from spawn. If you get that kill in 5 seconds, the guy coming from spawn gets a double kill. Like, that's the difference. And then if that guy's also really shit, or not up to par, then instead of getting a double kill, maybe he takes 2 seconds killing the first guy, and then the other guy turns around, and then, like, it's a completely different game at that point. Like, the game has changed so much in just that small interaction, just because, like, of things being a little bit slower. So, in other words, what pace is not just, like, how quickly you do things, but it's also a direct way to link mechanical skill to something that happens in the game, right? Like, it's like, you know, you go into the firing range and you work on your aim, and it's like, okay, what good is this doing me? Exactly what is working on my aim doing for me? And it's the way to quantify that. If your aim makes it so that you miss, like, you go in with end parries, you got to get a 4-shot kill, you shoot 5 shots to get the kill instead of 8, that's a significant time difference. It's like a, you know, what is that? It's like a quarter of a second? Or thereabouts. Like, if you're able to move to get to that kill that little bit faster, like, you use your ledge snapping and sub-strafing and all that sort of stuff to get across the map that little bit faster, again, quarter a second, maybe even more than that, depending on the map. And so it goes, and, like, it sort of all adds up until you've got situations where, like, your average kind of X-rank solo queue hero takes 20 shots to kill with an end parry, whereas a good Japanese player, like a decent Japanese player, takes exactly 4 shots. Like, they don't fucking miss against stationary targets. And, like, that's, okay, it's a 16 shot difference. What's the what's the shot time on an end parry? It's like 8 frames or something. Not like end parry, just standard walking shooting. It's like 7 or 8 frames, I think. And so, or maybe it's 6 frames. So like 6, doesn't matter. 6 times 16, what is that? Like, 100, 8 times 16 is easier. 8 times 8 is 64 times 2 is 128. So 128 frames is 2 seconds. So there you go. That's your 2 seconds right there. Is like your NA solo queue player spends fucking forever getting 1 kill because they just don't hit their shots, and then it loses them 2 seconds in a fight, and that 2 seconds turns around and bites them in the ass because that 2 seconds is going to keep stacking on top of itself. It's like, okay, if you were there 2 seconds sooner, you would have got that kill. And because you're there 2 seconds later, the guy had time to react, which slows down the kill even more. And then that, in turn, causes a knock-on... Basically, it ends up being that you do less shit over the course of a game. And it's all because of mechanical skill. Also, actually, it's not all because of mechanical skill. It also plays into things like decision-making. Proactive decision-making. Like, why was Rapid so good in NA? It's not because it was like this broken fucking weapon. It's because people play on reactions in NA. They don't play proactively. When you're playing on reactions, the first shot of the... and you're reacting to the first shot of the Rapid Blaster hitting you, then the second shot hits you for free. If you see, on the other hand, if you see that there's a Rapid Blaster about to shoot at you and you run away, the first shot maybe connects due to netcode, but the second shot doesn't, and you're away free. You don't get stuck in ink, you don't get hit the third time, you don't get followed up on by a fucking burst bomb or anything like that. You're just out. Like, you're out for free. You're gone. And it's all because of proactive decision making, and that, again, is something that ties into game pace. All in all, game pace is like probably the most important thing that NA players do not understand and do not comprehend. It's like the way I can sort of summarize NA games is like more haste, less speed. Like, people play to do more shit. Like, they will just run at people because it's like, I want to get a fucking kill, and then they fuck up the execution. And it's like, if you understand what you need to be doing, you can be ahead of the curve on that. You don't need to be reacting to every single fucking time you see someone on the map. And you can have a game plan, you can understand what you're doing, and you can play faster as a result of it. And, like, honestly, that's the biggest difference. Like, the biggest difference between NA... Well, one of the biggest differences between NA and Japan in just execution is that Japan has that kind of follow-through. Consistently. There's always like, we're going to get that kill, and then we're also going to go and do this. That's also what separates people like Pengut. Pengut is really good at this. Pengut is I still say Pengut is like the best blaster player in NA, because he does this. Like, he actually plays this way. And the fact that he was put on Rapid Blaster instead of fucking Custom Blaster for all that time in SCDX is like a fucking crime against humanity. Like, that's... And again, that's a fundamental misunderstanding of what Pengut... Like, not even just what Pengut does, but, like, the way the game works. So, yeah, like, I guess, all in all, just to sort of summarize the summary of the summary. Splatoon, like, if you're going to play this game competitively, you need to understand things in terms that are not borrowed from other games, in terms of, like, not looking at things in terms of matchups. Who cares about matchups? Like, people talk about anchor matchups as though they matter. Like, what? Like, I saw the one say something about, like, oh, the Explosher has the losing matchup to the Charger. It's like 55-45. What the fuck are you talking about? Explosher doesn't have matchups, you know? Like, in what world is the Explosher fighting a 1v1? How does that even work? Like, what are you doing to have your Explosher fight something on even terms? The only way that happens is if it's getting run at by like an end parry or something. And then it's not a 1v1, it's like the Explosher's trying to get the fuck out, it's not trying to fight. Like, you don't care about the matchup in that case. Like, it's just stupid. Like, it's a complete lack of understanding of team dynamics, of anything to do with how the game, like, plays out. Like, at all. I don't fucking get it. But yeah, like, when I say, like, the Australian stuff, like, the Australian scene is more strategically developed, it's because of shit like that. When I talk to people on the Australian server, like Oceanic and whatnot, it's like, I have conversations about the game that mirror how the game plays. It's like, oh, but what if oh, we're talking about like getting stingrays and spamming stingray. Well, what if you shoot the stingray? Like, that's the sort of thing that Australian players actually come up with. What if you go and kill the stingray? Oh, imagine that. And it's just like, I actually do sincerely enjoy talking to Australian players a lot more than NA players. NA players make me fucking want to tear my hair out. Australian players might be fucking like S and S plus for the most part, and will never be able to like keep up with NA players regardless of how much strategy they have, unless they like seriously sit down and like use the firing range for like an hour a day. But it doesn't matter. It's like, it's more fun to talk about the game with people who actually think about the game and not fucking Smash Brothers Splatoon version. Like, yeah, people in NA don't think about the game very well. Like I say, it's all, as far as NA is concerned, it's like stingrays and 1v1 matchups and what else? What's another thing? Oh yeah, Splat Zones only. Splat Zones is okay. I kind of want to talk about Splat Zones. Vaguely, sort of. And it's to trash it, don't worry. Splat Zones to me is like a mode where it allows you to kind of throw all this shit about like playing aggressively and whatnot out the window. Like, it's such a bad mode. Oh my goodness. Like, it's not a bad mode. It's not that bad. Thing with Splat Zones. So this whole time I was talking about like the Tetras being able to initiate and pulling the Brella apart and pulling the Brella comps apart and all that sort of stuff. In Splat Zones, that stuff is nowhere near as important. It's still important, but in Splat Zones you can get away with like triple anchor comps because you don't need to push. You can get away with like people run fucking on New Albacore, for example. They'll run like Jet, Charger, Explosher, Dually Scorcher. And it's like, this is a stupid comp, what are you thinking? And then it'll work, because they'll just sort of sit behind the zone, and the other team will feed. And it's like, I guess? Okay, I mean, you won the game. But then, like, and then people play like Rainmaker, and it's like, oh, but my special advantage, and it's like, you're playing it wrong, you fuck. Like, tower control, people play it wrong. Like, these score lines in tower control, like, you don't see games that are like 16 to knockout in tower control NA. Okay, you just said the word team dynamics, and I didn't explain what that was. When I'm talking about team dynamics, I'm talking about like how team comps match up to each other, and how you can play them differently in order to get different results. Like I was talking about, one of the things I was talking about here was like how the same team comps were played, but then Norishio stopped playing, played a little bit differently and sort of played more to draw people away from the front line, to like draw the Emperors back, and these guys didn't. The Asano didn't adapt to that. Like they kept the Tetra kept doing what it was doing the whole game, and like that's what I mean by team dynamics, is like looking at how the teams match up as a whole, including playstyle, including team comp, including like even mental shit, like is this guy tilting? Yeah, that's just teamwork, not team dynamics. But yes, it does encourage teamwork. It's a very straightforward mode. What you do on Splat Zones is, when you get pushed out of the zone, you build specials and you go back in. It's a lot more complicated than that, obviously, in practice, because a good team is going to a good team is going to push out into your base and start spawn camping you, and that's why inkjets are so strong. That's why stingray is so strong, is because you can do that with those specials. And they're going to prevent you from getting out of your base. But a lot of that is like also voluntary on the defending team's part, because they need to get out of their base, and if they die to spawn camps like that, then yeah. And basically, though, I do agree with what you're saying. I'm just saying that team dynamics was perhaps not the word to put in there. Because I tend to have a bit of a problem with people saying, like, terms, like using terms that they don't know the definition of. Which is, I shouldn't have said team dynamics to begin with without explaining it. Sorry, that's my mistake in the first place. But yeah, so like the thing that I have against Splat Zones, it's not a bad mode. I shouldn't have said it's a bad mode. I think it's the weakest mode, and I think the only reason that it's so popular is because you can get away with not understanding very much about the game. Like, you don't have to understand anything about aggression, really. You can make Splat Zones, you can completely make things work with just pure special pushes. And at some point, yeah, you're going to fight against teams that spawn camp you, but there's still ways to get your specials together when you're getting spawn camped. If anything, it's like almost easier. Like, if you understand how to deal with spawn camps, which is basically you accept the fact that you're getting spawn camped, you sit in your base, and then when they use inkjets to try and fuck up your specials, you kill them, and then you go in off that. Like, it's a slightly different thing, and you still have your specials. And of course, like, teams... NA Splat Zones is a fucking clusterfuck, because it's like people don't understand how to, like, gracefully lose the zone. Like, if you have 4 people pushing in with specials in NA, everyone will just sort of pile onto the zone anyway. It's like, they have 4 specials, what could possibly go wrong if we all stand on the exact spot they're going to use all 4 specials? Instead, what they should be doing is what the Japanese teams always do, which is you say, okay, they've got 4 specials, we're not going to keep this zone for very long, we can hold them off for as long as we can, and then we just sort of shift away from the zone, let them come in, let them use 4 specials on the zone, and then we fucking kill them and take the zone back. Yeah, we take a penalty, who cares? They've just fed all of their specials, all of their respawns, onto the zone. We get like 20-point penalty that's going to be more than made up for by the fact that they can't push in again for another 20 seconds. And we get another spawn camp out of it. Like, we have our specials, we don't spend specials killing them, so we can spawn camp them and get more points. Like, it's like, this is the sort of shit that I came up with in fucking 2016 to play Splat Zones, and like, fuck. Again, like, all of this shit that I'm talking about is shit that I've been using to understand the game since 2016. This is not new. None of this is new. This is all shit that's come from Splatoon 1 that still applies. So, you know, like, if someone wants to fucking, like, when I put this on YouTube, I'm gonna put this on YouTube. Sorry to there was someone who asked if I'm gonna put it on YouTube. I meant to say yes, because it's like a straight up yes or no question. The only thing is that I dropped 1 million fucking frames, so it's like, oops. 28,148 to be precise. It's almost 1 million. But yeah, it's like, what, you know, sure, give me shit for not playing the game, but do so when you come up with something that I haven't known for 3 years, basically. Like, that's the point that I'm at. Like, I'm actually fucking done with trying to talk sense into competitive players, because it just doesn't happen. But yeah, it's like, it's this kind of weird idea of, like, it's not, I don't blame them, mind you. I don't blame competitive teams, especially intermediate teams. I only, like, when I talk shit about competitive Splatoon players, it's specifically the top teams. Specifically the top teams. I don't care, like, if an intermediate level team fucks up on Splat Zones because they don't understand the shit that I've just been talking about, that's okay. They're intermediate. Like, they're fucking learning from top teams who basically do what they're doing, except slightly better. Like, they win aim. They win on aim. And they haven't learned anything. Like, there's no there's no understanding being developed. It's basically just I go in, I shoot things. Um, and it's like sometimes you'll have people like, oh yeah, we need to stop going in at some point and sort of get our numbers back, and it's like the most basic fucking strategy. Like it's like literally like the first thing that you learn in like A+ is at some points it is a good idea to not hold forward on the stick. It's like you're supposed to know this from solo queue. Why do I think competitive players don't see the game the way I do? I think I don't want to be immodest here. Firstly, it's because most players in the competitive scene don't have competitive FPS background. And the people who do were not necessarily top competitive players. Like, you'll have people like Hitzel. Hitzel understands a fair bit about the game. But at the same time, it's like a lot of these sort of Halo players still have sort of holdovers from Halo. Like, there's a lot of stuff where they look at things in Halo terms. And they're like, okay, we're going to take control of this thing, and me just being here is enough for them to not, like there's a different kind of thing with Halo where, because obviously weapons are hit scan, for the most part, weapons are, I think they're hit scan in Halo. That doesn't really matter though, the point is that they're infinite range. Like, you have infinite range weapons in Halo, so it's like, if you can see someone, you can shoot them. It's a very, very, very different game because of that. So it's like, some of the stuff that people are bringing over from other games is a bit different. Whereas what I'm doing is I've made a point of saying, like, because I used to have the same problem back in Splatoon 1. Early days of Splatoon 1, 2015, I made a lot of those mistakes. And then I think it was basically like it was a Squidbox versus Imperius game where we got rushed the fuck down, and everything I thought I knew about the game got thrown out the window. I was like, oh fuck, this game is very different. I need to seriously reconsider what the fuck I'm talking about here. And from there, I picked up shit from the Japanese scene. So like, that was all. That's all shit that other players don't have the luxury of doing, because I stopped playing the game to do that. Like, I was spending my Splatoon time talking about, looking at what other teams were doing and what was actually working, and trying to understand the game from a pragmatic perspective of, like, I am going to go and look at what other people are doing and see what is working, like why they are winning, irrespective of what they are trying to do to win, and putting all that together that way. Whereas, yeah, I don't think competitive players have that luxury. Top competitive players have to keep their mechanics and whatnot up. Like, they need to keep practicing on stuff that will get rusty if they don't tend to it. And then they don't necessarily have the knowledge as a result of that. Like, they don't necessarily understand things. And then when an intermediate player wants to learn something, they go to talk to a top player, and the top player talks in fucking vague, superstitious bullshit like, oh, you have to improve your positioning. It's like, fuck you. That is the most useless thing you could possibly say. Like, go work on your aim. It's like, thanks. Thanks for that insightful fucking sage advice. It's, again, like, I'm not necessarily blaming, like, I'm not blaming intermediate teams. You need to win with your 1v1s, this is a classic one. I'm not blaming intermediate teams for not knowing shit, because these intermediate teams are usually comprised of players who've had to figure everything out for themselves, because, like, someone, like, when they've tried to learn things from top players, they get these vague bullshit responses that don't mean anything, and even to a top player, they don't mean anything. It'd be different if it's like, if a player's talking in complete jargon that the guy just doesn't understand. But if you're talking, like, in terms, you have to have better positioning. It's like, fuck off with that bullshit. And like, like, people don't understand how to think critically. People don't understand how to give feedback. People think that honest feedback is flaming people. Honest feedback is like saying directly to someone, this is what you did. This is the effect that it had. Here's something you can do differently. Like, it's not even necessarily saying, here's what you did. Like, you don't even frame it that way. It's like, I can understand why you did this, but at the same time, we needed this kind of thing. Did I bump my... I didn't bump my mic, did I? Hello? No, it's just more frames dropping. Sorry. I think I bumped my... I think I did bump my mic, sorry. But yeah. Like, so intermediate players are not at fault. When people, like, talk shit about the kids in the academy not knowing what they're talking about, it's like, yeah, that's your problem. Like, you fucking didn't tell them anything. You didn't learn the game to begin with, and then you didn't teach anyone anything. Of course people in the academy don't fucking know anything. You spend your time going on Twitter talking about fucking how broken Stingray is and how it needs a nerf, and then you suggest nerf like, oh, yeah, just give it an extra 10 points on the special, it'll be fine. It's like 5%. Okay, special nerf on Stingray. What the fuck? That's another thing. Charges are like... 10 points on a charger is nothing. It's actually nothing. The only thing that affects is the very first Stingray of the game. The only thing that nerf affects is the very first Stingray of the game. Because a charger... Like, when... At what point does a charger get exactly 200 points toward a special? How does that ever happen? A charger gets like 30, 40 points per shot. Or something like that. That's more than 10. Like... What is that nerf doing? Aside from making the first Stingray a little bit slower. And even then, it's not really necessarily making it slower. Like... A charger overshoots its special every fucking time. Yeah, Jack, that's basically what I'm saying. Like, the Academy... I'm not saying it's a failure, because the whole point of the Academy at this stage is to teach me stuff like that, like why people are not very understanding of the game. But yeah, like stuff like this, like yeah, just give it an extra 10 points. That doesn't fucking matter, because special, like when charges get special, they almost always overshoot by like 20 points. Like, what a fucking useless nerf. Like I keep saying things like, yeah, M1, that is basically what it was. Like, when you look at the patch notes, when you look back at the patch notes, and you look at, like, which nerfs coincided with a drop in usage, and how significant those nerfs were, a lot of the time the nerfs were nothing. And it was literally just, oh, the weapon's been nerfed now, let's not use it. Like, it's a common thing in Dota 2 patching as well. It's a concept where if you're trying to balance a game and you know that people won't shut up about it if you don't change something, but you also know that, like, you have the data, you have the facts, you have the analytics of, like, millions of games being played, and you know that this is not overpowered and it's actually just people being bad. This is the sort of thing that you do. You give it a nerf that doesn't matter. You give it a nerf that's like, yeah, 10 points on the special. Does literally nothing. Okay, not literally nothing. It slows down the first special, like I said. Does nothing. At all. Nothing important. But it's like, oh, charge has been nerfed. Great. They're listening to us, boys. And it's like, what the fuck? Yeah, H3 is another one that overshoots its special as well, because it uses suction bombs half the time. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, it's a really common thing in Dota where, like, people complain about these, like, meta heroes, and then, like, it gets, like, a insignificant nerf that doesn't matter, and then insignificant nerf that doesn't matter, golly. But, like, people stop using the hero, and then, like, 2 weeks later, someone picks it again, and it's like, it loses, and it's like, oh yeah, this hero has this nerf, and, like, here's all the problems with it. It's like the same shit that these guys do. But yeah, so, like, what I'm saying is, I'm not trying to blame people. Like, when I talk shit about people knowing things, I talk specifically about top players. I don't care. Like, like I said, I most enjoy talking to Australian players. They don't know half the shit that I'm talking about. Like, I'm usually telling them stuff, and it's like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. But it's fine, because they're not top players. They don't have an obligation to push the game. It's okay that they don't know things. They're supposed to not know things. If they knew everything, then why the fuck are they S-ranks? Like, it's okay. They're supposed to not know things. They're supposed to, like, enjoy talking about the game. Like, or rather, they're supposed to... they engage with you engage with people, whereas like top NA players spend all their time complaining about Stingray, or complaining about Inkjet, or complaining about Tenatech, or complaining about whatever, only to drop it like 2 weeks later because of an insignificant nerf, or even no nerf at all. In the case of like the Rapid Blaster, like what the fuck was that? The Rapid Blaster was gone from the Japanese meta when it got nerfed. And it's like, oh yeah, the Rapid Blaster got nerfed with its AoE, but nobody fucking used the thing in the relevant part of the game, which is Japan. Like, nobody used Rapid Blaster, especially Rapid Blaster Pro, for like weeks before that nerf came in. You know, like the nerfs are usually behind where everything needs to be directed. So, anyway, yeah. Like, I don't want to be turning all of this into a protracted shit talk session, even though that's exactly what this is. So I think I'm gonna I do have to stop streaming. Anyway, look, I'm gonna put all this up on YouTube. At least most of this. I might cut out the last little bit, but like, yeah, like if heaven forbid there is a top Western player in this chat right now who is actually like listening to what I'm saying. Like, at some point you like your job, your role as a top player is to develop things, is to look at what is winning and say, how do we beat this? That is your job. Like, you look at fucking. This, to be fair, this is an esports problem. This isn't a Splatoon problem. This is an esports problem. I think the only games where this doesn't happen are like FGC, like fighting games, and even then, it's like explicitly not Smash, like FGC fighting games, not Smash, because like people push the envelope in the FGC, but they don't do it like. Fucking Dota 2 International is another great example of this. Like, I don't know, I don't really care about League of Legends or Overwatch, but I'm sure there's some of that there too. Like, you need to be able to push what you're doing, change the game, change the way the game is played. That's what you do as a top player. So, anyway, that's all from me. I'm going to turn my stream off, and I'm probably not going to stream again for another 3 months, but, you know, it's okay. Obviously people are too rigid about, like, people still fucking pick H3, like, people are at a point where they're, like, picking stuff and they don't understand why it's good, they don't understand why it works, they don't understand how they're winning. Obviously that's going to result in people developing superstitious bullshit beliefs about what they think is working, and they're just going to stick to them. That's how it works. It's unfortunately, that's just how it is. And we can change that by developing critical thinking skills, but that's going to take a little while. Alright, thanks for watching everyone, I'm out of here.